was that Packers loss something to where I'm like, now those are night games. Maybe that's the different. I could sleep on it quicker. But the Bills game, and even the Eagles, the next day it was like, hey, it's the Chiefs. It's fine. Still some time left. The term that I've used, I used a few weeks ago is, that runway. There's still runway left. They're running out of runway, but there's still some time left. Yesterday hit different, man. And it sucks. It sucks. And maybe it was because it was a complete whiff on my part of what I expected out of the game. I had a pretty good read on the Chiefs the last couple of weeks. The Bills game and the Patriots game. I picked the Bills to win and the Chiefs to cover the spread against the Patriots and win by double digits. And they did. And I thought the Raiders were going to no-show. I thought this was a game that they're traveling 10 o'clock their time. Shut up, dork. They're playing on the road, and they've got a minuscule chance of making the playoffs. But Aiden O'Connell's a backup quarterback. They did what they did against a quitting Chargers team, whatever, and the Chiefs have an opportunity to still get the number 1 seed and win the division on Christmas Day. Make it 8 in a row. 8 in a row for the Chiefs by beating the Raiders. Divisions and winning streak. All in one. And they no-showed. They got punked. They got punched in the face, and they cried, and they took their ball and ran home. They didn't fight back. It didn't feel like there was much there of the one time it felt like, all right, the Chiefs are, all right, here we go, was when it was 4th and 1 and Andy Reid had to walk halfway on the field and go, come on, to the offensive line, challenging them. Why? Why do you have to go and challenge them on a 4th and 1? Shouldn't they know it's 4th and 1? Do your freaking job. Hit somebody. Quit getting pushed back. There was one really well-coached team. There was a team out there on the field that looked like they wanted to be there. There was a team out there on the field that looked like they were enjoying playing football. There was a team on the field that looked like the physical team. There was a team on the field that looked like they were ready to just fight somebody. And then there was the Chiefs that were ready to go home and open up presents. So ready to do anything but be out there. And I know it's like, well, the defense did their part. Yeah. Almost the entire game they did their part. Almost the entire game they did their part. But maybe it's just simply a product of what this team is right now, is when the Chiefs needed to get a stop and nobody in the building thought Aiden O'Connell was going to throw the ball, they still just ran it right down your throats. Blitz 11 guys. If Aiden O'Connell throws it and completes a pass, great. It would be the first one since the first quarter. Make him beat that. And this team gives up the long runs and back-to-back first downs. So the offense was just terrible and pedestrian and doing the same things over and over again. The defense is not without blame. They were really good for the most part, but we can get into some of the particulars as well. But this feels so much bigger than, hey, let's break down individual plays of this game, which we can do. But doesn't this feel, and maybe I'm on an island here, but I'll just ask you, does it feel that it's bigger, a bigger feeling, sort of an inflection point loss to the Raiders, maybe more than the Eagles and the Bills? That it's more than just, hey, let's break down this play, that play, what happened here, what happened there, and then you can figure out some of the issues there, that this seems like it is so much more of a 10,000-foot view, the macro instead of the micro.
If you're on an island, I am on this island with you, and we are both desperately looking for a way to build a raft because I don't want to be here anymore, but I am completely with you on that. We should talk about some of the plays that made this game what it was, but it is actually different than some of the plays in weeks past. You go, oh man, they had one big play at the end to win the game. Well, the Chiefs made it closer by the end, and the defense did a stupendous job making Aiden O'Connell completely forgettable, as you said, through 3/4 of football. And it's not like he was doing anything special in the first. He just literally didn't complete a pass in those last 3 quarters.
Tommy Townsend completed more passes after the first quarter than Aiden O'Connell.
Here's the lifeblood of what you were just getting to that I also had the realization about yesterday. And I think a lot of Chiefs fans will hear this and want blood, and some Chiefs fans are going to hear this and let out a blood-curdling scream because it sounds ridiculous, but you have to take it in what we saw yesterday. The weirdest thing we saw yesterday is that the Chiefs' offense right now has all the fight of a Brandon Staley Chargers team. That's the thing that was disheartening on a level that I was not prepared for. A couple of bad turnovers resulting in 13, I guess, and then ultimately 14 again, resulting in 2 automatic touchdowns on back-to-back offensive plays for the Raiders defense. That's insane. I don't know that I've ever seen that before. I'm not sure if it's ever happened before.
It cut out there for a second. I apologize. What was the stat?
Just the back-to-back touchdowns on 2 Chiefs offensive plays. Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen that before, and I don't know if it's happened before. But to lose, in part because of those 2 plays in a game around it that sort of looked like the Chiefs, that would be fitting in a way that we could talk ourselves into, right? Like, okay, these 2 crazy, ridiculous mistakes that have the best possible result for the Raiders. That's why you lost the game. Weird bleep happens. This team still shoots itself in the foot. But after those mistakes, they just seem like a team that didn't want to be there. And I don't know what to do with that, specifically for that offensive unit where Andy Reid is the face of it, where he is the head coach. With this team is historically, we talk about them being well coached and well prepared and the details and all of that. Obviously, the details and mistakes have been an issue all year. But yesterday, I don't know how many times it felt like the only guys that had any particular fire in their gut was Mahomes and Travis Kelce, which occasionally turned into fire at his own sideline. I mean, it is the most out of sorts this offense has looked since Patrick Mahomes got here.
913-912-4810, also 913-381-810. Text comes in, says, unquestionably the most embarrassing, disappointing, cringeworthy game since Patrick has been a Chief. Plenty of blame to go around. Andy and his goofy play calls and not having his team mentally or physically prepared, yet again. The difference in energy and effort was just like the game in Denver. The D kicked our ass the entire game. No completions after the first quarter. It's time to put some more blame on Mahomes. He had open receivers on several plays, didn't pull the trigger. Team will likely lose in round 1, and I'm glad. I can't watch this offense anymore. We need a big overhaul this offseason. I don't think there's any question at this point if you said, hey, what's more likely, Chiefs are one and done or they go to the Super Bowl? Like, it's more likely they're one and done.
Yep.
Because it's more likely that they can lose to a playoff team at home than winning 3 games in a row. I mean, they're 2-4 in their last 6 games. They haven't won 3 games in 6. I mean, so how are they going to win 3 games in a row? Yeah, it's so much more likely that they lose in the first round. And there is an element of, get to the offseason and fix this thing because it is frustrating to watch. The Chiefs had the ball at their own, 7, 8, I think it was the 9-yard line after the, what was a ticky-tack holding call on Joshua Williams on the Richie James punt return. But still, they start with the ball at the 9-yard line. And I'm thinking, man, don't turn it over. Just don't turn the ball over. I was more afraid of the Chiefs offense going out there than I was excited of, okay, let's go get some points here. Let's see what the Chiefs can do offensively. It was more, man, just don't give the ball right back to the Raiders and let them get a field goal. I mean, defensively, the Raiders had 2 drives that went farther than 25 yards. They both resulted in 3 points. I mean, that was it. I mean, even like Tommy Townsend had a great throw to Justin Watson, who made a great catch, and Mahomes is like, "Really? You make a catch for that guy? That's the great catch. Okay, cool." So when he's throwing the ball, it's no big deal. Yeah, make sure you look that one in. Don't worry about me when I'm throwing the football to you. But even with that play, he shanks a punt, and the Raiders pick up 26 yards and kick a field goal because of a shanked punt. I mean, like, even that one small mistake, the defense did their part so often, but, they give up 6 points, but the offense was so bad. I tweeted at halftime, the Chiefs are beating the Chiefs 14-7. Mm-hmm. And it feels like the Chiefs beat the Chiefs. So it's like, well, the Raiders came in and punked them, and they were so much more aggressive, and they wanted the ball and or wanted the win, and they wanted to be out there. And yet, you look at a number of plays that take place in that game, and it's like this team continues to find ways to lose. The offense, those 2 defensive touchdowns that you talked about in 7 seconds, Chiefs had first and goal at the 9-yard line, through to the end zone once, and that was the 4th down play to Rashee Rice. Butker misses a 36-yard field goal before half. Townsend's shank punt results in the Raiders going, 20 yards and kicking a field goal. All that, and they lost by 6. Chiefs, and there are plenty of other things in there too, but Chiefs teams of the past have made plays and found ways to win. It's like, it wasn't pretty, but they got the win. They did the thing in the fourth quarter that they do, and they came back and blah. This team finds ways to lose. Dropping a ball, offsides, whatever that was against the Raiders, no showing like they did against the Broncos, and whatever's going on this year. I know that some of the broadcasts and the post game on TV was like, this Chiefs team, it just looks really tired. They look worn out, and they've had extra, games that they've put on their body. And they have. They absolutely have done that. But did they look worn out last week?
Right.
If they show up and play hard next week, does that mean they were able to get their conditioning and their fitness in a short week, by the way? If they come out fired up against the Bengals? Like, did they look like they were tired and they were worn out? Or did they look like they just didn't want to be out there? And did they look like a team that right now, between the ears, is, do we really want to go out there and make a run in the playoffs? Do we really want to do some of those things? Because I don't really want to have to work for it. Because it didn't look like they were doing a whole lot of working in the game, especially offensively. Maybe I'm looking at the team overall, but really picturing the struggles offensively that was taking place. And I don't disagree with the texter, because while Mahomes was, running for his life and willing his team to, try to win, and they were talking about that, and him running the football and not going out of bounds and, picking up extra yards and things like that, he didn't have a good game. He struggled in the game. The pick 6, Justin Ross was wide open. Just was released. Just let go. His arm was even in the air. And Mahomes throws it to Watson, who was covered, because Mahomes had predetermined, and even said that, I think, after the game. And it was like, well, I rolled, it was on time and threw the ball, but it was, he read it, and it's a great play by him. Yeah, he read it. It was covered. Justin Ross was released. He was running down the field on the same side. It wasn't like it was the backside. He was lined up next to Justin Watson. He's there. But he throws a pick 6. Like, that's a huge exchange. You hit Justin Ross, it's like a 20-yard gain. Instead, it's a pick 6. What we are watching, Josh, is a team that, when Mahomes plays his ass off, they can get in the 20s. When Mahomes isn't playing great, they score 7 or 14 or whatever it was, and it looks like that. If Mahomes isn't playing almost a perfect game, and he's been really good a number of times this year, even when some of the numbers may not have, bear that out. He's been good a number. I don't think he was all that good yesterday. And I know that there was like, well, he was running for his life, and he was, but some of those running for his life was clean pockets that he left on his own. So that has to also be acknowledged. Now, some of that might be clean pockets and already seeing that the defense has this play sniffed out and figured out, and these guys ain't going to do anything. So the best chance we have is play number 2 on this. Play 1 is covered. Play 2 is, let me get outside the pocket and create. Let's see if there's a breakdown defensively, because right now they've got it covered. Certainly that might be a part of it. And it might also be the game plan, which goes to coaching and goes to Andy Reid and the, overall, team, and certainly offensive coaching. And that is throwing the ball down the field versus throwing underneath. The entire conversation about this team for, a couple of years was too deep safety. They can't hit him over the top. Nobody's going to take what's there, drive methodically, force them out of the too deep safety, run the ball if you have to, and boom, hit them over the top when the opportunities are there. The Raiders weren't playing too deep. They were playing up. They had safeties in the box half the damn time. Like, they weren't playing too deep and saying keep everything in front. And even with that, even with bringing guys up to the box, the Chiefs threw the ball 10 air yards, more than 10 yards past the line of scrimmage. 5 attempts. Mahomes threw the ball, not completions, threw the ball that traveled more than 10 yards past the line of scrimmage. They threw 15 behind the line of scrimmage. That's not a joke. That's not an exaggeration. They threw 15 passes behind the line of scrimmage. 5 passes, 10 air yards. What in the hell are they doing? The defense is forcing you to go over the top, is saying you're not going to run on us, and we've got you. You're throwing everything underneath. We don't think you can beat us deep. We're going to dare you to do that. And they triple dog double dared them, and the Chiefs were there sitting with their tongue on the pole. There you go. A little Christmas for you right there. It just like it felt like an all systems failure. I know defensively might be sitting there going, "What are you talking about, man? Like, what the hell? We're doing we're trying to do our part. Like, we're keeping everything here, and you guys are mad at the whole overall team because of, offensively they're, giving up 14 points and playing the way that they are. And so maybe that's unfair to the defense, but it felt different yesterday, and coaching is a massive part of this. And whether that's slipping here or there, or not holding a certain standard over there, or not holding a certain standard here, or just getting a little lax at this part, or a little lax over there, maybe a different wide receiver room, maybe a different quarterback room, maybe a different offensive room overall. And at the end of the season, you hear Justin Watson that comes out and says, across the board offensively, there's a lack of discipline. That's your offensive player, Chiefs. That's your wide receiver. That is not us. That's not Josh or Dylan or Jason or Saren or Nate or Steven or anybody else saying there's a lack of discipline. That's Justin Watson that says across the board on offense, there's a lack of discipline. They're grown men, but coaching's a big part of that. Why wasn't there a lack of discipline the previous 3 years if it's just on the player? I don't know. Lack of discipline from Justin Watson saying that? But, I mean, Josh, how do you go through a game when there's a safety in the box so often and you throw 15 passes behind the line of scrimmage and they were 2 of 5 on passes, 10 or more air yards. 3rd and 10 to Rashee Rice, 15 yards, and then the Richie James 45-yard completion on 2nd and 6. 12 of 15 on passes at or behind the line of scrimmage.
The only thing that worked in even the loosest definition of worked for an offense yesterday were screen passes and Patrick Mahomes killing himself for 5 yards a carry. Right. That was it. I mean, I know Mahomes scrambled out of bounds a couple of times, but he officially was sacked 4 times. I think that's counting 1 as a rushing attempt from early in the game, unless they changed that after the fact. 4 sacks and 10 carries for Patrick Mahomes. He took real hits 10 times yesterday. I know I haven't counted them all, but that's my estimate, even giving him a couple stepping out of bounds freebies. And he was doing that like when you create a player in Madden and then you start on a crummy franchise, like I got to do everything myself. That was the mode that he was in. And that is acknowledging that this was not a good Patrick Mahomes game either. I think Patrick Mahomes had a better game in that spot than almost any other quarterback would have. But to your coaching point in terms of details, discipline, that comment from Justin Watson, that's all totally fair in its own bucket. And the other side of the coaching bucket, dude, we got Joe Flacco out here throwing absolute dots. We've got backup quarterbacks having real resurgences, guys who at least for a game or two opposing teams can make competent quarterback play out of some incompetent quarterback bleep. And the Kansas City Chiefs offense with Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce have given us some of the most inexplicably incompetent looking performances of the year. And Pacheco and Mahomes maybe both trying to hold on to the ball on the fumble, and Reed said Pacheco was trying to protect the ball, but Mahomes said he was supposed to have it there. So, you see how that happens, and it's infuriating because they ran it all week. Maybe, that is crazy. Maybe snap it to the quarterback and let him decide if he's handing it to the running back instead of flipping those two things. As opposed to the trick play that scored a touchdown, there was no risk on that play. That play was all window dressing and Isaiah Pacheco and just him being an athlete and really selling that fake. I don't understand at so many levels how so many things can go poorly And that is one thing that I think so far today we've done a good job with. That everyone else is going to have to try to keep in mind going forward. No one person gets to or has to take all of this. This was an entire offensive meltdown at a number of positions, and man, it's really frustrating.
We'll take a break with this, and then we'll get to phone calls. I know there's some people on hold, and I do want to get to your reaction. We'll open up the phone lines again in the noon hour as well after we talk with Adam Teicher at 11 o'clock. But one thing that goes with the Pacheco and the Mahomes exchange, I'm glad you and I talked about it last week. But when people are having fun and the locker room's laughing about, oh, we changed the play in the huddle that I told Rashee Rice I'm going to toss the ball to you. We hadn't practiced it that way.
Right.
If you liked that, then you can't get pissed off at Isaiah Pacheco trying to ad-lib something they didn't practice by keeping the ball. They didn't practice it by him keeping the ball. They practiced it by Mahomes taking the handoff. Pacheco ad-libbed and saw the defense getting through the line of scrimmage and decided, I'm going to keep it myself. I'm going to pull it out of Patrick Mahomes' belly, and I'm going to eject on this play. And I'm going to find a safe landing spot. He did that on his own. Well, McKinnon, that was so cool. I'm glad you and I talked about it, that, maybe run the play the way that you practiced it.
Yep.
Because this offense doesn't seem to be in a position where they can just start changing things on the fly the way they practiced it all week, and especially trick plays when there's handling of a football by the non-quarterback. Yep. Those things can go wrong, and 1 week later, it went wrong because somebody was like, you know what, I'm going to change this. And McKinnon and Rice were the only ones that he knew that he was going to pass it. And Pacheco was the only one in his mind that was going to keep it. Maybe a split second, but run the play. Or, just let your quarterback take the handoff. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
we're just off the tick, and again, that's my responsibility to make sure I give them the right stuff to work with in the run game and the pass game. So, that's what's got to take place.
It's not that big of a deal. They're just off the tick. Unfortunately, I think that tick is giving them lens disease.
Yeah! God! Is it me? Is it us? Are we the crazy ones?
They're just off the tick.
Ah!
Come on.
Stop saying it.
Maybe put that tick back on.
No.
I don't know. Maybe that'll get you fired up. I'm not sure. This is, I believe this is a record 15 consecutive weeks that they're just off a tick.
Yeah, listen, I think that 16th and 17th, those are going to be the weeks they finally find all those ticks. I did have one time when I do think I had 15 to 20 ticks on me.
Really?
Yeah, I went to a little park, nature, played nothing crazy, just a park. We did some archery. It was a whole thing several years back, but I got home and became a little off a tick party. So the Chiefs have followed my lead there.
That's right. Andy Reid was there leading the way.
Yeah.
913-381-0810. Let's get to the phone lines. Waiting patiently. We start off with Tracy here on this Tuesday edition. Tracy, go right ahead. Thank you for waiting patiently. What's on your mind, sir?
Hey, thank you for taking my call. Hey, just real quick, I just have a little bit of a commentary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the Chiefs right now remind me of an old rhythm and blues song by the Temptations, and it's called Standing on Top. And all you need to do is just listen to the first verse, and it goes something like this. When you're on top, there's no place to go but down. And I look at that in real life. All right, I did a little bit of research, and Mahomes tasted success very, very early in the NFL, and that is really unprecedented. Okay, let me give you three examples. John Elway didn't win his first championship till the end of his career, and then he won two. Drew Brees didn't win one till 12 or 13 years. Peyton Manning, I think, was the closest at 9 years. So you can't take away what Mahomes did early. To me, going forward, throwing them temper tantrums on the sideline, this is 2 weeks in a row for the whole world to see. Because you're losing, something is wrong. And you only have 14 or 15 years in the NFL, and that man tasted success early. He can't handle losing because he threw temper tantrums 2 weeks. And so to me, that's going to be a part of his legacy going forward. He can't handle losing. That was a debacle yesterday with him going off. And he showed up his receivers. He got in his offensive line's ass yesterday. And one of my buddies said, well, that's just to fire them up. No, not to me, because it wasn't all on the offensive line. Matt Hasselbeck did a good breakdown of him yesterday, and I'll be real quick. Sometimes Mahomes is putting the ball on the wrong shoulder because you throw them go routes or the out route. And he said that Mahomes is putting the ball on the wrong shoulder. He said yesterday, and I seen this on SportsCenter this morning, that Tyreek Hill would bail him out because Tyreek Hill had the speed and Tyreek Hill could get separation. So he showed this one clip. I forget what game it was. Tyreek Hill is looking over both shoulders, but he came back for the ball to bail Mahomes out. These receivers here, they don't have that separation, and not doing that. So I'm just trying to say some of it we blame the receivers, and it's clearly Mahomes as well. The last time I checked, I played football in high school. That's the highest that I did, so I'm nowhere close to him. But the thing about it is it takes 11 people, and Mahomes is part of it. I don't like him showing up people. Thanks for taking my call, and Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Tracy, to you as well. I appreciate the phone call. 913-381-0810. The standing on top, the only way to go is down. Yeah, I mean, that's where the Chiefs are in these last 5 years, certainly the last four. When they've gone to 3 Super Bowls, they won the Super Bowl. The only way to go is down or stagnant. Winning the Super Bowl again this year is, hey, you won the Super Bowl again this year. You won it last year. So, yeah, the only place to go is down. The part about Patrick Mahomes, I don't think he's beyond reproach. I don't think he is infallible or a perfect human/player, as nobody is. But he can't handle losing. I will say I'd rather have a quarterback that can't handle losing. I'd rather have a quarterback that gets that pissed off when they aren't playing well and is challenging guys. I think that was a challenging to the offensive line when, was it Tracy Wolfson on the sideline that said he was telling the offensive line, if you dominate, we dominate, you dominate. Because when he walked away, the offensive line was shaking their head, yeah. Trey Smith was shaking his head, Allegretti shaking his head, Tooney, they were shaking their head, yeah. They were right along with Mahomes. He wasn't screaming and cursing at him as in, you guys shut up, sit down, and listen to me. It was, you guys are the engine of this offense. Dominate. Go dominate, and then we will dominate. You guys are the engine. He wasn't saying, protect me. Do something. I'm running around out here, and you guys aren't doing your – like, you know, we've seen him do that before. We've seen him get, fired up on the sideline before. The difference is they're losing now. So and certainly the frustration is starting to boil over. I don't think anybody is doubting that because, Buffalo, his outburst at the refs – New England, he was, on the sideline after the Toney interception, if I just bleeping said that. This one with the offensive line and then coming off the field at halftime when it was the short pass to Kelsey and then right before Butker missed the field goal, something about bleeping plays that was there, not a professional lip reader. Yeah, the frustrations are boiling over, but I don't remember Tyreek bailing him out last year, and that guy's the reigning MVP. And they won the Super Bowl without Tyreek Hill. So to say that Tyreek was the reason that Mahomes was doing some of these things and Tyreek would bail out Patrick Mahomes and Mahomes is throwing to the wrong shoulder and it's all about Tyreek Hill, well, this feels like commentary from 2022 April. And this is December of 2023. The Chiefs are the reigning Super Bowl champions and Patrick Mahomes is a two-time MVP and won the MVP without Tyreek Hill. It's very prisoner of the moment-ish if you say that Tyreek Hill is the issue that this Chiefs offense is struggling because they were the number one offense last year.
I agree with all of that. The only thing I'll add is that I am way more concerned about the lip reading at the coaching staff of, I believe, call the bleeping plays. There was a nostalgic element to yesterday's game where Patrick Mahomes was frustrated that the I'll call to you, then you call to me, then you call it in procedure was taking so bleeping long. Again, it was a Christmas Day little nostalgia trip. I remember what it was like watching him yell at Andy Reid and Matt Nagy, and then some Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy. But that Reed calls the plays to the OC to the quarterback to the huddle. You break the huddle with 15 seconds, and as soon as you have a receiver in motion, your whole thing blows up in your face. That I could do without seeing again. I'm more worried about that going forward because that seems like a systemic issue.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Logan, next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB here on this Tuesday. Logan, go right ahead. What's on your mind, sir?
Hey, thanks for taking my call, guys. Brisco, you said it earlier with this team looks like a Brandon Staley-led team. Well, I got to give you one worse. This looks like a Bears offense led by Matt Nagy.
Yeah.
And I say that as a diehard Bears fan. The offensive line yesterday looked I seriously had to double check to make sure I wasn't watching WGN and watching the Bears play because that offensive line reminded me so much of Mitch Trubisky running around like a chicken with his head cut off, or even Justin Fields to some extent too. My question though for you guys is, one, is Matt Nagy the offensive coordinator at the end of the season? And then two, how would you go about fixing the wide receivers? I mean, Justin Jefferson appears to have a fractured relationship with Minnesota. Do you try to poach him while maybe the Vikings are in a rebuild? Stephon Diggs has been kind of always rumored to want out of Buffalo outside of the first year that he was there. Do you try to go poach him? How would you guys fix this offense? And then, like I said, is Matt Nagy the offensive coordinator at the end of the season?
Logan, I appreciate the phone call, 913-381-810-810. A couple of things with it, and I know there's frustration with Matt Nagy. I mean, is this Andy Reid's offense and Andy Reid the OC, or is it Nagy? Was it Andy Reid the whole time, or was it Eric Bieniemy? Because I feel like for a long time when it was like, well, Eric Bieniemy isn't getting any jobs. Why not? I mean, is it because he's black? No, he doesn't even call the plays. It's Andy Reid's offense. Right. Well, this offense is terrible. Must be Matt Nagy's fault. Well, whose offense is it? It's Andy Reid's. And so Matt Nagy relaying the plays, is he not relaying the plays in a language Mahomes can understand? How much of the coordinating part is it the smaller details that are fracturing that's on Matt Nagy? And if that's the case, then they need to find somebody else to do the job. But Matt Nagy is the OC next year. And I would free agent. I'd look at trades. I'd look at draft. I'd look at a lot of different things to address the wide receiver room. I'd look at number 4 on the team, and that's it. that's really it. And if somebody else makes the team by virtue of needing it to fill an entire roster that's on this team right now, that's fine, as long as it's not MVS at $14 million per year with his 70 snaps yesterday and 1 target, which apparently he slipped coming out, and his right shoulder, left shoulder, whatever shoulder. Either way, it wasn't between the ones is not where the ball went to MVS, so they were on the wrong page there for some particular reason. So, yeah, I don't think it's I don't know.
Your Reed Nagy thing, I think, is a very good clarifying point, but also the number of Bears fans who I have heard that exact sentiment from is so bizarre that I do. Somebody said, like, oh, Nagy's always looking for the perfect play, and it got the plays in late. That's not happening here because Andy Reid's calling the plays to Nagy, to Mahomes, unless something has changed in recent weeks, which we have no evidence for. But I do wonder about the week leading up, the game planning, and as you were asking about the details, poor Dylan was giving himself whiplash by the hard nodding he was doing. He either agreed a lot or he's got some heavy metal playing in those headphones.
I agree a lot.
We're not gonna take it. He's just headbanging. Yeah.
I wish the Raiders defense would have sung that yesterday.
I'm hot for teacher. I don't know why those are the 2 songs that came to my head. I'm not really sure.
Both good songs, though.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know why I said thank you. I didn't write them, nor did I perform them. So, thank you. I worked hard on those songs.
The Chiefs aren't gonna make it.
No, they ain't gonna make it. I'm hot for offense. We'll take a time out.
Hey, Jason, you know who I'm hot for? I'm hot for Teicher.
When's he coming up?
10 minutes, baby.
10 for Teicher. Where's our next?
G-Fits.
The holidays oftentimes about eating. The food is fantastic. The food has been great around the holidays as well, but I'll tell you this, it's not like I am dreading heading home to the home-cooked meals that we will have with Guaranteed Foods, America's finest home food service. I just wish they could deliver some of that out here to where we are right now, but that's okay. We'll be home in no time, and we'll get to enjoy the 180-day supply of food that is sitting there waiting for us in the Guaranteed Foods Heavy-Duty Commercial Food Service Center, going from home-cooked meal to then heading back home. Typically, it would be, all right, I'm not trying to cook anything anytime soon. And it might be just easier. Let's heat this up. Let's go to the fast food. No, not that. Now we can make the home-cooked meals in a very short amount of time because of the process in which they blast freeze all of their products. Chill index close to 100 degrees below zero. You can prepare the products from frozen, which I didn't think really was possible, especially with beef, with poultry, with pork. I didn't think that was possible preparing it from frozen, but that is absolutely the case with Guaranteed Foods. There's a lot of different things that set them apart. You just got to give them a call, 913-888-5000, and see all of the different ways they can benefit you and your family, or just simply you if you're single. It'll come in handy there as well. GuaranteedFoods.com. Again, 913-888-5000 to set up the consultation appointment, and they'll go through everything to make it very specific and unique to you and your situation. We're actually saving money on our grocery bill with working with Guaranteed Foods. Tell them you heard about it right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Guaranteed Foods, delivering all natural food to Midwestern families since 1958.
Both offense and defense, they're built one-dimensionally. One's built to throw the ball. The other one's built to stop the pass. They give up 157 yards yesterday. On the final play on third and 4, where they sealed the game, had the defensive end actually kept contained and Nick Bolton actually slid down the line, they would have stopped that play, but they all got suckered into the interior. And as far as the gifts for the offensive linemen go, the only two guys that should have gotten gifts were Cooney and Humphrey. The other ones would have got a handshake and a Merry Christmas. But, guys, I also got the Andy Reid Greatest Hits album yesterday, and I heard the first track right after the game. It was I Take Responsibility for This. I'll hang up and listen. Great show, guys.
Gary, I appreciate the phone call. 913-381-810. Let's sneak in Tom from Cleveland joining us here in the zone. Tom, thank you for waiting. Go right ahead. What's on your mind, sir?
Hey, you guys have been a Chiefs fan since 1965. And this team hasn't played correctly the whole year. This isn't a one-game thing. From game one, this team has played flat. And so this is and the fact that it has played flat the whole season, you guys know it as well as I. It's an issue that's in the culture of the team. And Watson said it right. There's something wrong here. And I tell you, I guarantee you guys, we could go into that complex tomorrow where they're practicing, and we get there at 9, we would know by 5 o'clock. It would be clear what the problem is. And here's one of the problems is when you have one player, Patrick Mahomes, who is making a quarter of the salary cap, you are playing behind the 8 ball. The fact that you could not pay for Hill, I don't care whether you believe he was helpful or not, or great or not. I mean, some people think he's the NFL most valuable player this year. That was a terrific loss.
Yeah. Sorry. Tom, I appreciate the phone call. I mean, it was a huge loss. Again, the context is that they went and won a Super Bowl. Doesn't mean they'll win a Super Bowl the next 4 or 5 years, but last year it didn't hurt them, at least for 1 year.
The Zone is presented by Guaranteed Foods, delivering all natural food to Midwestern families since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. We now talk with Adam Teicher, Chiefs Insider from ESPN, presented by Twin Peaks. Step up your lunch game at Twin Peaks. Enjoy light yet hearty combos put together for you, available at an awesome price, featuring savory soups, crisp salads, and a variety of sandwiches to satisfy your every craving. Enjoy your next lunch break with Twin Peaks. Adam Teicher is with us here from ESPN. The Chiefs took an extended lunch break yesterday, Adam. Roughly 3 hours worth around lunchtime.
That was a very painful lunch hour, if that's what that was. That was something.
I assume you've had better Christmases before than hanging out there watching that game. Is that as bad of a loss as we've seen in the Mahomes era with the different context added in?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, there was that game in Tennessee a few years ago, but this was really dwarfed that in terms of just totally bad football. I mean, Tennessee was a good team. The Chiefs were playing that year. I mean, the Raiders are going nowhere and maybe more talented or a better team than their record, but still shouldn't be handling the Chiefs like that. But it was offensively, I tweeted this out during the game. I mean, it looked like a team that didn't even practice. I mean, they couldn't do basic things right, and Andy Reid is he's, as he always does when things go bad, he says, this is on me, it's my fault. I don't usually blame him. I don't usually I feel like he's just diving on the grenade. But now I think yesterday there's a lot of truth to that. I think he didn't do the Chiefs any favors with the things they were trying to do and all that. For instance, the fumble, the one that the Raiders brought back for a touchdown. The Raiders are getting pressure and penetration, and you can't do slow. You can't call slow developing plays. I mean, you got to get into it. You got to go right now, and so I feel like that was a mistake on the Chiefs' part. So I just felt like it was a bad day all around, and not unlike some of the games we've seen from the Chiefs this year. I mean, this one was certainly to an extreme, but nothing really that we've seen that's new from the Chiefs. This is just an extreme case of things we've been seeing all along.
And that Titans game, in 2019, one, they were on the road. Two, they played that Titans team in the AFC Championship game. So it's not like it was a terrible Titans team. That team, I think that's correct, right? That was the 2019 season.
No, that was 2000.
Was that 2020?
20 or 21. Yeah, that was the year that game put them at. That was
like 27-3.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would have been 21, right?
Okay. So, you know what? You're right. You're right. And they did not go to but I think the Titans still made the playoffs, et cetera. But this is a Raiders team that I guess technically they've got an outside shot of making the playoffs. I mean, the Chiefs have an outside shot of not making the playoffs. I mean, they're like 97% chance to make the playoffs. If they lose the next 2 weeks and a number of other things happen, they're on the outside looking in. Which is really strange to say with only 2 games remaining that there's a chance they could not make the playoffs. But that is the situation they're in. The fumble, we talked about that in the first hour, Josh and I did, because last week Josh and I discussed on Monday that, Jerick McKinnon and Rashee Rice on that touchdown pass, they break the huddle, and Jerick McKinnon tells Rashee Rice, hey, I'm going to throw it to you, Not how they practiced it at all. They practiced a handoff every single time. And then he changed it and let me throw it to you. And that might have been fun. They won the game. It worked. This is fun. We changed it. That was cool. I got a passing touchdown. He got his receiving touchdown record. And then a week later, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. And it's like, no, Patrick is supposed to take the handoff. And Pacheco apparently, saw that the defensive line was breaking through the offensive line and decided I'm going to keep it myself and changed up what they had practiced. So if you like last week and the cool little ad lib that they hadn't practiced at the last second, then you can't really be mad about Pacheco doing that. Luckily, Josh and I talked about that maybe this offense isn't in a position to where, one, you're running some trick plays, and two, you're ad-libbing on the fly of a trick play as it is with a running back that's not your quarterback and handling the football. And also, if you're going to run that trick play, it's one thing to be, first and goal at the 3-yard line with McKinnon to Rice, as opposed to first down at your own 7 or 8-yard line, or inside your own 15-yard line. And if something bad happens, the Raiders have it on the doorstep when they aren't doing anything offensively. It just seemed like more of a, hey, all right, we did that with Pacheco. We're back to being the Chiefs. Here we go. Let's have a little bit more fun. Let's sprinkle in some fun here.
That's what I thought with regard to the fumble. Is what are you running this for at the 6-7 yard line, whatever it was? Why are you doing it when you're backed up like that? Why not try that around midfield? I just felt like the Chiefs were so desperate with what they were trying to do. They just showed no confidence in their ability to get anything done without trying the trick stuff, without going to things like that. I feel like that's kind of what the coaches were. I think they really showed what they felt yesterday, no doubt.
I think the play was going to be a Mahomes pitch to Richie James, who then would have the choice of running it or throwing it. He's left-handed, right? And we saw some things maybe in training camp that Richie James threw the ball running to his left and threw the ball downfield. The fact that it was Richie James, maybe it's because the opposition knows that, hey, Richie James has thrown the football before he's left-handed. If he's out there, all right, let's get back and turn around and start running to wide receivers. Oh, there's a seam here for Richie James to run. The play was going to be blown up. I have no idea what it was going to be, but we've, there was even talk at a training camp like, you might see Richie James throw a pass this year. He's left-handed. You might see that happen. Unfortunately, it was not the Christmas present that people were hoping. It turned out to be rough in 7 seconds. I don't know that I've seen anything like that in my time watching football, that it feels like the team that, you could say was the better team or not. I mean, a team can't score a touchdown, and yet they score 2 on defense. And it almost felt like if the Chiefs took the ball and punted every time, they might win 7-6. I mean, once they were up 7-3, if they just punted every single time, they might have won 7-6. But 7 seconds was ultimately the difference in the game yesterday.
Yeah, and
in the specifics.
And who thought at 17-7 the Chiefs were coming back? I mean, things were so bad at that point. You knew that it was going to be a real struggle for them. And then they get downfield and they miss the field goal at the end of the first half, and you just knew that it was going to be like pushing a boulder uphill in the second half, and it was. It's hard to believe how this thing has devolved into something like what we saw yesterday. It really has.
Was this simply Adam Teischer's our guest, was this simply a no-show, or is there something bigger in your mind going on? Bad games happen throughout a season where it's like, you know what, they just did not play well. They got there and didn't have it, and those things happen. Was this one of those to where, you know what, they didn't have it in the course of a season, even though they struggled and they've got to do this and that, you're still going to have a game where you just don't show up? Or is there something bigger at play here?
They were so bad, I think there's something bigger at play here now. This was epically bad. I mean, this wasn't just a bad day at the office. I mean, this was they couldn't do basic things right, and they couldn't handle the Raiders' pressure, and I don't think the Raiders really made an effort to blitz. I mean, I think they were just doing what they do, and the Chiefs couldn't handle it, and the Chiefs didn't handle that part of it well. I mean, it looked to me like a team that didn't practice all week. That's what it looked like to me, that they took all week off and said, okay, well, guys, we'll see you on Monday at the stadium, on Monday morning. And that's what it looked like to me. And so it was just epically that bad. And I don't know how you bounce back from this. I mean, it's going to be an interesting game on Sunday against the Bengals, given what the Chiefs have at stake here. I mean, if the Chiefs lose out, if either the Broncos or the Raiders win out, the Chiefs don't make the playoffs. they don't win the division. The other team would, and you may be thinking, well, neither the Broncos or the Raiders are going to win out. Well, they play each other the last game of the season, so if each of them wins on Sunday this week, the Raiders against the Colts and the Broncos against the Chargers, and the Chiefs lose, I mean, the division race is going to be very interesting on that last week of the season. So, the Chiefs didn't do themselves any favors in that regard on Sunday or yesterday.
Is there enough? Yeah. Is there enough over the next couple days or a couple of weeks, I should say, to get this thing rolling, or is this the Chiefs slowly, steadily marching towards the end of the season in a quick exit from the playoffs and where do they go now with this team offensively, from the number one offense in the NFL winning a Super Bowl to the offense scoring, 14 points, but it felt like 7. The offense scoring as many as the Raiders defense scored in a game.
Yeah, it was incredible, and you can't fix everything that's ailing this team in 2 weeks. I mean, you can't do it, and the way I look at it, the playoffs are starting now. I mean, this thing is still interesting. There's still a race going on here, and one of those two teams can certainly catch them, the Broncos or the Raiders. So, I still believe the Chiefs can be a good team. When their offense isn't making all these mistakes, they can be efficient, and paired with their defense and what they have going for them, they have a little something there. I don't think it's hopeless, but to think they're going to stop with the mistakes, no, we're 15 games in now, and this is who they are. That's part of their DNA, I think, and we've seen very few clean games from them this year, not one since the first Raiders game a month or so ago. So, I think thinking this team is going to make a run deep into the playoffs, they're going to have to develop a whole new personality. Things are going to have to change dramatically.
Yeah, the Chiefs have a 11.1% chance of making the Super Bowl. They have a 41% chance of losing in the first round of the playoffs. So 4 times as likely to lose, according to FPI at ESPN, 4 times as likely to lose in the first round than they are to win 3 games in the playoffs.
Yeah, and if it's Buffalo in the first round, who thinks they have a 41? Yeah. It's not more than that. It's not a greater percentage than that. So, that's the Chiefs' worst nightmare would be to, in the playoffs, would be to play the Bills in that wild card round, but that's what it's looking like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know, like, right now, if I'm just looking through, I'm like, well, if you're facing this team in the first round, boy, I mean, you got to worry about that. I mean, the Bills, the Browns, I mean, the way Joe Flacco's playing right now, I don't want to see this offense against the Browns defense. And actually the Browns having a passing game. Like, it's mainly just this offense facing off against the Browns defense. Like, I don't want to see that in the first round. Like, there's nothing right now that I'm like, a couple of weeks ago, I'm looking at it and going, I don't really want to face the Bills, but, the Dolphins don't really, concern me. I think they haven't really beaten a good team. They go and beat the Cowboys. And then it's like, well, the Ravens have had some really interesting games, and we'll see what they do. And then they just go and play the way they did last night against the 49ers. And this is the first time in maybe in the Patrick Mahomes era, Adam, when I felt like in the AFC, if the Chiefs play their A game and another AFC team plays their A game, the Chiefs will win. I don't see that against the Ravens or the Bills or maybe even the Dolphins or with Joe Flacco as the Browns right now. Like, this is the first time that I could probably name a couple of teams that I say Chiefs play their A game and that team plays their A game, the Chiefs lose.
No, I agree, and it's hard to see any kind of path for the Chiefs deep in the playoffs with all their issues. It really is. There's no doubt. So I agree with you there.
Is it? You mentioned that something bigger at play here. Is it a lost confidence, a lost belief in this in themselves? Lost the arrogance of greatness that it's just we know we're going to go out there and be better than the other team, and we're going to show it on the field, and we'll find a way to win, and the plays will happen as they come, and in the fourth quarter we'll do what we need to do to win. Is it other teams that no longer fear the Chiefs and look at them as mere mortals that, yeah, I mean, this team is beatable. The Raiders come in. The Raiders lose a few weeks ago and say, we were the better team. We were the better team than that team. Then they talk this last week, and then dude that's talking backs it up, picks off Patrick Mahomes, stares at him, goes in for a pick six, and the Chiefs don't respond by punching them in the mouth. They sort of just meekly go into that dark night. Is that something bigger at play? Is just a fractured confidence, fissure in the foundation here of that sort of greatness, that feel of this team will find a way to get it done, that even in the locker room they don't have that belief anymore?
Well, they just look like a tired team to me, that they're wearing down from all this, all this stress from over the years, from having to be on top of their game every week and responding to that. That's a hard thing to do over a long period of time. And, Mahomes just looked yesterday like a guy who's wearing down to me. He just looked like a guy who is really tired of the burden of having to lug an otherwise lifeless offense around. I mean, he wasn't very good yesterday, certainly, but he's not getting any help. And, the way the Chiefs played around him, there's no way he's going to maximize his game. That's impossible for him to do. There's no quarterback ever who can lift this team out of what they've got. So even if he was playing his A game, I don't think there's a lot of hope for the Chiefs. So I just think it's accumulation of a lot of things, and this thing looks nothing like what we've come to expect it to look like. I mean, even earlier in the year, it was better than this. I mean, they were dropping some balls and committing some penalties and turnovers. I mean, that's nothing new, but it hasn't been quite like this. I mean, those first two drives in the first quarter were epically bad. I mean, minus 18 yards. I mean, that was crazy. I mean, I was kind of joking about the Chiefs punting on first down just to put their defense back on the field. I mean, that's how bad things were for the Chiefs yesterday. And so it's gone backwards, and it is a little hard to trace how it quite got to this point, but here we are.
Yeah, the first six plays in the first two drives, the first six plays for the Chiefs, they managed a botched handoff, a sack, a dropped pass, a false start, and then a sack, which also had an offsides call on the Chiefs wide receiver and MVS. That's all in 6 plays.
Yeah, and even even on that third drive, the Raiders bailed them out with a penalty, so the Chiefs got an extra play there, or extra couple plays. But they ran 11 plays on their first 3 drives. 5 went for negative yards. I mean, they're going backwards. I mean, it was. Compared to what we're used to seeing from these guys, it was unbelievable. Even from what we've been seeing this year, it was horrible. I mean, that was just an epically bad situation, no doubt about it.
And I haven't looked at the previous games. This one just happened to stand out in what I'm going to say here. That's the preface. But is there a change in the coaching staff in how they view this Chiefs offense and saying, there's no reason to have some of these plays that we're taking shots down the field? We've talked about for so long the 2 deep, to keep everything in front of you. The Chiefs have to take what's there, takes what's available. They're not giving you these deep shots. You just gotta, do what's there. And these teams are playing these 2 deep safeties. They're not going to get beat over the top. I mean, how many times the Raiders had a safety in the box yesterday, just daring the Chiefs to go over the top. And I went and tracked it. And again, I did not do this in the previous game, so this is one that seemed to stand out. But question about, the game plan and what the Chiefs coaches believe. Patrick Mahomes threw the ball 10 or more air yards past the line of scrimmage. So the ball travels 10 yards past the line of scrimmage. He had 5 attempts in the game. 2 of 5 was Mahomes when he threw the ball 10 or more yards past the line of scrimmage. They threw 15 behind the line of scrimmage, Adam. 15. And that was a Raiders team that was putting a safety in the box half the time. Like that's even whatever the Raiders are doing, we don't think we can adjust to it to beat them over the top. We're going to have to stick with the game plan of the guys we have. That's pretty illuminating and ominous, I would say, that the Raiders weren't playing too deep and the Chiefs were going, cool, play 15 yards down the field. We're going to take these 7 and 8 yards a pop. No, they were playing up, and the Chiefs were still throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, and part of that I think was the pressure that the Raiders were putting on. The Chiefs couldn't handle it, and so Mahomes was running around for his life part of the time, and part of it was guys just, even despite that, weren't getting open down the field. I mean, there was not like there was like a bunch of guys running free down there. That's not what it was yesterday. So yeah, the thing just was a complete mess, and it's hard to just believe how it got to this point with this group of guys and this quarterback.
This team, I was going to make this comparison today in the first hour, but never got around to it, just from, the Ravens, what they did last night against the 49ers. And, boy, I mean, they were open receivers all over the place. Lamar would scramble, and there's Odell Beckham Jr. wide open. There's, Zay Flowers wide open, Bateman wide open, Isaiah Likely. And Lamar made some really good throws as well. So it wasn't just, he's throwing to guys who had nobody around him. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just talking about what the players were able to do. And this Chiefs team this year, for so long we talked about the Ravens and what Lamar Jackson could and couldn't do as a quarterback. This Chiefs team reminds me of the Ravens without a running game. A good/great defense, a really good tight end with no skill players, no dynamism in the wide receiver room, and a quarterback that's relying on that tight end, and then nobody really that goes and makes a play, except the Chiefs don't have an awesome running game to fall back on right now offensively. They've got a really good/great defense. Those Ravens teams, at least they had the Lamar Jackson's legs and the running backs and things like that. This team reminds me of those Ravens teams. Good/great tight end, really awesome defense. And that's it. And a quarterback that's won an MVP before and is probably going to win a second MVP this year, Lamar.
Yeah, well, I don't know if the Chiefs are, awesome defensively. I don't know if I describe them that way. They're very good and they're efficient, and they have their strengths, but they don't create turnovers. They don't help their offense that way, so it's not a complementary defense in that regard. And, yesterday, boy, they, after that last Chiefs touchdown, they needed to stop there. I mean, I don't think the Chiefs are going to win the game even if they got the ball back. But, hey, you got to try. And knowing the Raiders were going to have to run the ball, they couldn't stop them. So, I thought that was a mark against the Chiefs defensively. I mean, they're certainly good, and they're good enough to help the Chiefs go deep in the playoffs if the offense is competent. But the offense isn't competent, so the defense has to be a little more right now for the Chiefs.
Adam Teicher is our guest, presented by Twin Peaks. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, one more segment with our Chiefs insider from ESPN, Adam Teicher. More Zone on this Tuesday right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. us in the zone. All right, Adam, so much talk about, coaching and what may be going on. And Justin Watson yesterday in the locker room saying that, lack of discipline, said across the board offensively, just a lack of discipline. And we've heard how many weeks in a row of just a tick off. Well, get on the same page. We'll fix these mistakes. Even Mahomes yesterday, I still believe if we fix the mistakes, we can beat anybody in the league. And I'm glad he has that belief. That's great. It's just a matter of that's a huge if. It's a capital I, capital F, and it's probably a non-existent thing at this point with a couple of weeks left to go. What's the difference between last year and this year if we're talking about discipline and coaching? And if it's Eric Bieniemy to Matt Nagy, how much does he have over the offense? Because, we had a Bears fan call in earlier and say, this looks like a Matt Nagy offense, I'll tell you that, and with the Bears. And, okay, so was it an Eric Bieniemy offense, but Andy Reid was calling the plays? As you've covered this team, how much influence is the offensive coordinator? Is it the game plan? Is it those finer details throughout the week? Is it the calling the plays, et cetera? How much of an influence is Matt Nagy over an Eric Bieniemy on this offense?
Well, I don't think their influence is any different, but they have different styles and different ways they go about it. And Eric Bieniemy's thing was attention to detail. That's what we know. He's legendary. The stories are many of him getting after guys for doing what seemingly would be a small thing. But on game day, things were buttoned up and a lot better. And, you wonder about the accountability. And, Matt Nagy talked about that, and he said, there is accountability, but it's done in so many words. He said it's done in a different way than it was when Bieniemy was here. It's maybe not in your face. It may not be the same for every guy because different guys maybe handle things in a different way, but there are some things done in that. But to answer your question, I do believe there are some differences there, and one of them, that was one of Eric Bieniemy's stamps, and this is where Andy Reid has to come in as well, and the other position coaches. If it's not Matt Nagy who's demanding accountability or demanding that all the I's be dotted and the T's be crossed, then other guys have to step into that role.
And the feeling of this offense going backwards as well, that, for so long, so many weeks, Adam, it was wide receivers and wide receivers not on the same page and wide receivers dropping the ball and letting the Chiefs down. Feels like the offensive line can even be regressing. They had a terrible game yesterday. The tackles and Wanya Morris being a rookie, and Kuntz has been a revelation for the Raiders, really. And Max Crosby is one of the best in the league. But, you and I had a discussion of a month ago, I think it was, that we were talking about Juwan Taylor. And I'm like, if he's going to be one of the best pass protectors in pass rush win rate when he's actually in those true pass sets, if he's got a false start, every couple of games, if he's got a hold every couple of games, that's an exchange because you're keeping your $500 million man upright. Problem is, Adam, the penalties are coming with him not playing very well the last couple of weeks. That's a horse of a different color than, well, would you exchange this for this? Well, you can't have the penalties if you're also not playing well. And he did not have a good game yesterday. He hasn't played well as of late, has Juwan Taylor. And Wanya Morris at times has looked good. He didn't have that good of a game yesterday. So, they go out there and they get a couple new tackles, and those guys are now letting him down as well. Yeah, no, I agreed. It was a real mess out there. It was kind of interesting seeing Mahomes chewing them out on the sideline, in that one time. So that's a real problem, and I feel like until that gets fixed, all this other stuff we're talking about doesn't really matter. If they're gonna be pushed around and as ineffective as they were yesterday against the Bengals, they're going to lose again. It doesn't matter whether guys catch the ball, whether there's fewer turnovers. They have to protect Mahomes better because he was running around. He's going to get himself killed out there. It really was. He really is, and so that has to be job one, is fixing that. It's unsustainable to, 5 out of every 8 or 9 plays that you're giving help to both tackles. You just can't do that. You can't have a running back and a tight end shipping on both sides and then expect to be efficient offensively. And they're not paying Juwan Taylor $20 million to need help from a running back or a tight end.
Nope,
So.
that's definitely no. I agreed there, and maybe it was a bad game for those guys, or maybe it's the start of something bigger. The Bengals will test it, though. I mean, we'll see on Sunday whether this is a bigger problem or it's just a bad day for those guys.
Hendrickson been an issue. Hendrickson has been an issue for the Chiefs offensive line. So I'm not excited. Now DJ Reader not being there, teams have been able to run the football, so maybe that might be different this weekend of getting. Depending if Pacheco returns from the concussion or not, if they can get that rolling, we'll see. Adam Teicher's our guest. Can you pinpoint anything that may be going on with Travis Kelce? And I know people are talking about, it's Taylor Swift and all of that stuff. He threw a punch in training camp. So him sort of playing on edge and almost like, losing his temper so often, like I don't remember seeing this much from Travis Kelce where training camp happens, Jacksonville, he's almost getting in a fight, then throws his helmet and 15-yard penalty. Buffalo, I think it was, that Andy Reid got on him and did the little lip quiver of get over here right now. The Eagles, he was almost getting in a fight with Hassan Reddick, then he fumbles the football. This game, comes off the field and slams his helmet to the point that Andy Reid to the equipment guy, no, don't give him his helmet back. Then they have another conversation. That ain't Taylor Swift because this started back in training camp when he sort of played on edge. Is there anything that you can glean or pinpoint as to what's going on with Travis Kelce this year that it feels like a different Kelce that at any point might want to fight somebody out there?
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like his temper might be a little quicker than it's been in past years, maybe, but. Still was at the top of his game for a while this season. You remember he had that 3-game stretch, the Vikings game and the Broncos game, and one of the other games was at the Jets or one of the others early in the season. I mean, he had that streak of 33 catches over 3 games. That was really amazing, and it certainly hasn't been there lately. But it's hard to figure out what's going on with him. It really is. I do think he's a guy who can compartmentalize, and when he shows up at work, whatever might be going on off the field is in the back of his mind, and is not real issue. But that's getting tested this year, no doubt about it.
Is there a little bit of the frustration that the window he sees the light at the end of the tunnel and very few opportunities? And if this ends up being a year in which he played and got beat up and the ankle injury playing through that and getting older and thinking retirement's around the corner, that the frustration happens because, maybe you're not playing the way or moving the way that you remember you playing, and this offense is struggling, and all of a sudden you may not be making a deep run in the playoffs, that it's sort of culminating. And I also think this too, and this is playing dime store psychologist, there's probably a frustration that, he's got Taylor Swift there, which it's clearly getting serious and other people's eyes on the team, and he isn't putting up the numbers that we've typically seen from Travis Kelce in his career. That no, I'm the best tight end that ever lived, and I don't have 5 catches, 28 yards, 5 catches, 44 yards. I don't have a game where I have 3 catches for 14 yards. That's not me. That's not who I am. These people are watching something that's not what I have been known to do. I don't know. That's dime store psychologist, but I wonder if that's a part of it. That there's a lot more eyes on him right now, and he's not doing the things that he was in the past when it was 1,300 yards and 14 touchdowns.
I wouldn't pay a dime. I wouldn't pay a dime for that advice. Is what it is. But seriously, this was going on earlier in the season when things were going well for the Chiefs and going on for him. Well for him, So it's hard to draw a line with all this stuff, and there's no doubt that. He's getting frustrated now and I think there may be something to, he sees the end of his career coming, and it's going to be like this, where he's not very productive, the Chiefs aren't very good, and they're going to go out maybe ugly in the playoffs, even if they get there. So, maybe there's something to all that, but clearly there's been issues going on before this season went south for the Chiefs.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a guy that is taking a lot of flack in town, and certainly on this show we've talked about, me, not necessarily us like me and you, but this show talked about, like, I understand why Clyde Edwards-Helaire is getting the carries, but seems like a waste, and you got to keep Pacheco clean, or at least try to keep him healthy as long as possible so he can't carry the ball 15, 20 times every single game. And even in the offseason, like, they don't need to cut Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's got value on this team as a backup running back. He's not a first-rounder. That's already happened. You've already spent that. But just acknowledge and examine him for what he is currently. And I'll tell you what, man, for a guy that's had a lot of people saying a lot of things about him, I feel good for that guy the last couple of weeks because he looks like he's playing for a job. Like, he looked like a guy out there on the field, one of the guys out there on the field playing for a job, that he was playing his ass off. He looked like one of the Raiders who were playing maybe for a job in the NFL the next couple of years. He's a free agent at the end of this year. Anybody paying, a couple $1 million for what Clyde Edwards-Helaire is producing? I don't know if that's the case, but the way he's running the football, he's breaking tackles, and, that screen pass was pretty awesome. But also earlier in the game when he had a little swing pass that he had his back to the defender, turned around, then broke a tackle and picked up 8 yards. That might have been a gain of 1. What are you seeing from Edwards-Helaire? And I don't know. I don't want Pacheco to miss this game, but if he does, I don't go into this game thinking, oh, my God, they can't run the football anymore because of what Edwards-Helaire has done the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, well, his strength is making guys miss one-on-one in the open field. He's pretty good at that. He was the COVID training camp, so it wasn't on full display, but he was really good when the Chiefs were getting him the ball his rookie year on the practice field in those situations. And I'm thinking, wow, he's going to have a big impact as a receiver, maybe more than as a runner. And Chiefs haven't done much of that over the years, getting him the ball in the passing game, but they have lately, and it's paid off for him. So, yeah, particularly if Pacheco doesn't play this week, there's no Jerick McKinnon, so it's going to be the Clyde Edwards-Helaire show, no doubt about it. And interesting to see what the Chiefs can get out of him. I still feel like he's a little bit slow to the hole when in the running game. And there was one play where there was a pretty good hole on the right side. By the time he got there, it had closed up, and he got a 1-yard gain out of it. I was thinking that's going to be a pretty good gain. So he needs to be quicker to the hole than he was. But certainly in the passing game, I think he's been a help to the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think that ended up being the fourth down at midfield where they did not 3rd and 5. The next play was 3rd and 5 where Mahomes and Rice were on the different pages, and then the 4th down play where the throw deep to Rashee Rice, that was Travis Kelce offensive pass interference, that apparently if Travis Kelce commits offensive pass interference, it eliminates any other pass interference that may take place on the field on that particular play. But that was the drive, and I remember that particular play. And again, he plays his role. He's a backup running back. And I mean, that screen pass, it was awesome. He broke the tackle, but man, I wish he would have cut inside when he got down there inside the 20-yard line, because he had 2 blockers to the inside in green grass, and the Chiefs did not score. They had a 4th down that they did not score on that particular drive when they got down their 1st and goal at the 7 or 8 yard line. But he's been fine. He's done his job. All right, this weekend they've got the Bengals coming to town. Hey, don't worry, it's a backup quarterback, so it's all good. It's tough to probably have a feel for what this game will be like, but I'll ask you, one day after what we watched from the Chiefs and Raiders, do you have a feel or an idea? I think the line has moved now up to 8 points. It was 7.5 this morning, now 8. I'm surprised it's going that way. I would have put money on the Bengals, but do you have a feel for Sunday and what may happen?
Yeah, I was going to tell you, that's not me betting that number up. Let me put it that way. That's not. I don't bet at all, but if I would, that's probably not the way I'd go in this game. I just don't believe the Chiefs are as bad as what they were yesterday on offense. I expect turnovers because that's what they are. They've had 2 games this year without a turnover. I expect offensive penalties because that's what they do. They lead the league. I expect drop passes, so it's not going to be pretty. But I do think when they avoid those kinds of things, it'll be better than it was yesterday. I mean, that's a low bar. I know it's not a strong statement, but I do think the Chiefs are better than that. But can they do enough to beat a team that had been playing well behind a backup quarterback until last week? I don't know. I just don't know. I think the Bengals are better than maybe people think without Joe Burrow. I don't know. It's going to be tough for the Chiefs to win this game. I really think so. If they clean things up, I think they will win it, but we can't count on that anymore. I mean, I think that's that's some real wishful thinking there. So I'll go with the Bengals in a close game, unless the Chiefs somehow find a way to clean up all their issues here.
Well, I think a lot of people may have had what we had in mind because while this morning is 7.5, it went up to 8. It's now down to 7. So I think people jumped on the getting 7.5 and 8 points for the Bengals, seeing what the Chiefs have done. And one thing is I saw that thing go up. I almost thought to myself, is Vegas begging you to bet the Bengals? Like, does Vegas have a feeling that the Chiefs are going to run away with this thing and they want you to bet the Bengals or whatever? So trying to read some of those things might be an exercise in futility, but we'll see what ends up happening this weekend. You'd like to see the Chiefs defense cause some turnovers, though. 3 turnovers,
no doubt.
3 takeaways since the bye week, Adam. That's 6 games they've played since the bye week, and they've taken the ball away 3 times. They've played 12 quarters against Aiden O'Connell and Bailey Zappi combined, and they have 1 takeaway.
Yeah, and if hey, that fumbled punt for the Raiders, the first punt of the game. What if the Chiefs fall on that ball? If they were able to get that, how does that game change? So yeah, the Chiefs have to do a better job in that regard, no doubt.
Yep. Adam Teicher from ESPN, our Chiefs insider. Adam, you're the man as always. Really appreciate the time. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you as well, and we will talk next week, heading into Week 18, Chiefs and Chargers. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it as always.
Good stuff, Jason. Talk to you next week.
Absolutely. There's Adam Teicher joining us. Great stuff from Adam Teicher, as always. We appreciate him. From ESPN, he is presented by Twin Peaks. Step up your lunch game at Twin Peaks. Enjoy light yet hearty combos put together for you, available at an awesome price, featuring savory soups, crisp salads, and a variety of sandwiches to satisfy your every craving. Enjoy your next lunch break with Twin Peaks. More Zone next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Thank you to Adam Teicher from ESPN joining us. He's got the Bengals winning this weekend. That would not surprise me. It would not surprise me at all if the Bengals end up winning this weekend. I just, there's part of me, Josh, that it's like, I can't quit you. I'm just not going to wrap my mind around the fact that they would then lose to a backup quarterback in the Bengals that also doesn't have DJ Reader. So it's not like this is the Bengals of old and may not have Jamar Chase out there as well this weekend. He didn't play this past weekend. Luckily, it didn't cost me in fantasy. Moved on to the Super Bowl. I know people care. That's a big time. But if they don't have Jamar Chase and DJ Reader's out for the season, and a backup quarterback, obviously with Joe Burrow, like there's a part of me that's like, how in the hell would they lose to that team after the performance they just brought up against the Bengals or against the Raiders? And I don't know, how much do you buy into their exhausted, they're tired commentary that's going on, that went on second half of the game, that went on post game as well? Do you buy into that at all? Because I have a hard time, and I know the particulars that go along with it. I just have a hard time thinking that, because I don't know, did they look exhausted last week? And if they don't look exhausted on Sunday, maybe they just no-showed as opposed to, well, they're just a tired team.
I think they look mentally exhausted.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
The physical exhaustion of it and some shorter weeks and all of that, to your point, I mean, that changes week to week, and you find when a team looks tired. This team, and again, I'm trying not to just be the most hyperbolic possible, because we could actually push this a lot further. But this team looks exhausted when it realizes it's one of those days. It's one of those games. And I to what you and Teicher talked about with Travis Kelce, I do think for him it's, hey, man, I got a year and a couple games left, perhaps. I mean, if he's thinking, I'm not ending on this stinker, so I'll be back next year, try to do this all again. I got to get my body right again, and then what's next year going to look like? I think there is a frustration from the elite players, Mahomes and Kelce, and then perhaps a big chunk of the defense. But I don't think it's because they, had to play on Christmas and they got to play on a Monday and now it's going to be on a slightly shorter week here, or the poison pill that a caller mentioned a few weeks back. I don't really think it's that. And I also, there are people tweeting about, hey, man, this team looks like a team who could use a bye week. Well, the bye week didn't do anything for them either. Like, I don't think there's anything to change or rejuvenate here. I just think it's really disappointing that this is the team that it is. I'm with you. It's going to be really hard for me to say, like, no, I think Jake Browning's team beats Patrick Mahomes' team, because on some basic level that seems impossible. But if the Chiefs are just wearing just monochrome, whatever, grayscale uniforms, if they were the Kansas City blanks and just wearing gray and white out there every day, and you never watched them before this season, I think we would all be like, oh yeah, they're doing the inverse of the Bills thing right now. The Bills came to Arrowhead as a 500 football team, and now these two teams have the same record. It's crazy.
That is crazy. The one thing I will not subscribe to is the last series for the Chiefs defense, and should have seen that coming because they were so tired and they had been worn down by the game and having to be out there the whole time. The Chiefs defense was out there for 9 fewer minutes and faced 22 fewer plays than the Raiders defense did. The handoffs on first and second down to White that ended up going for like 30 yards. The first one went for 6 yards. The next one went for 30. The long one was play 51 and 52 of the game. Or, excuse me, 48 and 49. It was play 48 and 49 that they faced in the game. I'm sorry. That's not they're exhausted and they're worn down and yeah, they had been put in a position over and over again, but they had been getting 3 and outs and then back off the field. And by the way, the Chiefs were having longer drives, like 7, 8, 9, 10 play drives. They weren't scoring. They weren't picking up a lot of yards, but they were holding the ball. The Chiefs weren't going 3 and out, giving it right back to the Raiders, who were running 10, 11 play drives and then punting in the Chiefs right back to the Raiders. It was the exact opposite. The Raiders didn't do anything offensively. And there's no reason for the Chiefs to be so tired that's what they got. It's just this team is finding ways to lose. That even the side of the football that was really good the entire day, when they had to be good, they failed. That's a sign of a generic or bad team, and that's what this team is, just a generic playoff team.
Midwestern family since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. We'll hear from Braden Gall, talk a little college football in the 1 o'clock hour. 913-912-4810. Texter says, I buy into the no discipline and too much aw shucks from Andy. And Nagy is not an offensive coordinator. Tex says, how much of a possibility is there that this was just a trap game and they've been practicing for the Bengals for 2 weeks? Guess we'll find out on Sunday. We'll see. I mean, could it have been a trap game? The Chiefs are looking at a Raiders team that they were down 14-0, then outscored them 31-3. They played the way they did against the Patriots. They're worried about maybe the Bengals in a couple of weeks. It's Christmas Day. I mean, could be, but there's no reason for the Chiefs to get beat down like that against a team that has a new coach, a backup quarterback, and the slimmest of chances to make the postseason, and they're the ones out there playing hard and playing for their, what seems to be their playoff lives or their season, and the Chiefs looked like they were just kind of going through the motion. Like there are no excuses for that from this Chiefs team, whether mentally exhausted, physically exhausted, or not. But the mentally exhausted thing I think is a good point, Josh. But as I was saying as we ended there, the defense gets a lot of praise for what they did yesterday, but just as a year ago, when the Chiefs were the number one offense in the NFL, and there were still complaints about the tackles, there were complaints about the running game when Edwards-Helaire was in there, there were complaints about anytime McCole Hardman were to touch the football, I mean, what Sky Moore wasn't doing, there were still complaints about the offense, even though it was number one efficient offense in the league. The defense is not the number one defense in the league. While they played a good game, they are not infallible, and they are not beyond reproach, and they are not perfect. That while this defense has been pretty good, they cannot take the football away. They are not creating turnovers. 6 games, they've turned the team over 3 times since the bye week. I mean, they've been a good defense this year. I don't know if that is those things will eventually come. I know Steve Spagnuolo has talked about, well, you put some pressure on the quarterback and the fumbles and opportunities to intercept the pass, and how much does it change if this happens or that happens? Yeah, how much does it change? I don't know. But you had a quarterback who couldn't throw the football, didn't complete a pass after the first quarter of the game, and you get no turnovers. And in 12 total quarters against Aiden O'Connell and Bailey Zappi, they've got 1 turnover in those games. 1 turnover in those games. That seems impossible for a defense this good to force so many what would be 3rd and longs or putting pressure on a quarterback, sacking him as often as this Chiefs team does. I have no idea why, but they don't seem to be a team that's going to be generating the number of turnovers that would need to, as Adam Teicher said, play complementary football to this offense, because just by playing field position back and forth, I mean, that's helping because you're not putting points on the board or giving up any points, but you're also not giving short fields to an offense that really needs it.
Yeah, they're also a pretty random part of the game, like just statistically speaking, and I think that's at least to some extent, at least with the Raiders and Patriots, a little bit of a symptom of the way that they were playing offensive football. The Raiders played a terrified brand of offense yesterday when Aiden O'Connell throws 21 passes, and again, not a completion in the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th quarter of football. My God, a real thing that we're all saying. That doesn't give me as much pause. It's something Nick Bolton talked about after the game, like what being something that they want to be able to improve on, and it's a good way to impact the game in a massive way. But I think any amount of negativity we spent on the Chiefs' defense from yesterday is really about one play. And I can't remember who the defensive end was there. You'd like to see him hold the edge and crush in a little bit, and you'd like to see Nick Bolton shoot that gap, even if it wasn't his responsibility. I think Willie Gay got kind of washed out there as well. Drew Tranquill not on the field for any of that. Clearly the 4th linebacker by snap counts, by the way, like a deep 4th for Tranquill. That's not my favorite.
Mike Edwards got manhandled on that play.
Yeah, and I mean, so you can go through the run defense, and the Raiders had some success running the ball over the course of the day, even before that play, but not enough for that to be a real threat. I just think that like 98% of the vitriol from that loss has to go to the offense.
I'm not disagreeing with that. would like to see them generate some turnovers.
It's weird for them to be this good defensively and then to still be a non-turnover team. Like that is still weird for sure.
Yeah. On that long run by, like, to me, the first down run, it's 1st and 10 at the 25-yard line, and you give up 6 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just don't know how that happens. Like, how can you give up 6 yards? What do you think they're going to do?
Yeah, that's bad. That one's bad too. Yeah.
They didn't trust Aiden O'Connell in the middle of the game. Why would they trust Aiden O'Connell at that part? Like, 6 yards just right up the gut, right at the Chiefs. Like, that's that can't happen. And then, I think it was Chanel dove down on the looking at that run play. McDuffie's on the outside, so they blitz McDuffie. McDuffie's on the outside getting, sealed off. And Mike Edwards, gets well, maybe it wasn't Mike Edwards. It was doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Either way, they did not play well, and they did not play that particular play well. You mentioned Nick Bolton even said after the game, like, he's got to pull the trigger a little bit faster to be there, and it's got to shoot the gap a little bit quicker. I don't know what they would have done on 3rd down. I would have handed it off if I was the Raiders on 3rd down and said, if I've got to put the ball back in the Chiefs' hands, I will. Like, even before halftime, Josh, when they run the fake punt, and Tommy Townsend comes up there and completes the pass to Justin Watson, it's like, all right, now they got something going before half, down by 10. I know the Raiders are getting the ball to start the second half, but they can go and punch this thing in, and all of a sudden it's 17-14. You feel different. There's 2:08 on the clock, and they still have a timeout, and they're at the Vegas 41-yard line. And they got 23 yards.
Yep.
And called their last timeout with 9 seconds left.
Yep.
They didn't get 23 yards because they were stopped. They got 23 yards because they ran out of time. With 2:08 to go, you had the 2-minute warning and a timeout, and you were at the other team's 41-yard line. Like, all of these things seem symptomatic. Adam Teicher said that, it's more of a something bigger at play. And I don't know what that is, if this is just a simple no-show or something bigger at play. We'll find out the next couple of weeks, and it sucks to say, well, more data comes in, we'll have a better idea, and certainly that's the case. But this one feels, we talked about it in the first hour, Josh, this one feels a lot more impactful than an Eagles loss or a Bills loss. It feels like a columns sort of crumbling while you watch this team out there.
Yeah, because, I mean, the one loss that we haven't mentioned in terms of, like, arguing what felt worse is the Broncos game, because that's also losing to an AFC West team, and in that case, it was in Denver, but it had the streak attached to it, so, like, that felt bad. But that was a game when it was their second loss of the season, the Lions game. You know exactly why they lost that game. No Travis Kelce, no Chris Jones, and Kadarius Toney. No Kadarius Toney, but no Travis Kelce, no Chris Jones, and a Kadarius Toney. Then the Broncos game was like the weird, wacky outlier. Like, that's the one that we can turn
it
over
5 times.
Yeah, you saw what happened there, but you weren't convinced that was the Chiefs yet. The reason I'm not even actually wondering about the Bengals game, and I will inevitably pick them to win that game 13-10 or whatever, and learn nothing from my lessons other than to keep lowering the offensive score. But the thing about the Raiders game that feels different to me is that it is a perfect culmination of everything else we said. Well, if this keeps happening, then we'll be concerned. It happened again. It happened against the worst team in the, I guess, the worst team they've lost to since Denver, at least. It feels like it's building on all of the worst parts of Eagles, Packers, Bills, and those games. I think there's a bigger pillar. I think pillars crumbling is a good way of looking at it, where it feels like there is stuff really falling apart here. There are more than just cracks now in the foundation. It is actually coming down. But I also don't even think it's complicated. I just think there's so many fingers you can point that it becomes exhausting to do. The offensive line has gotten worse. The interior offensive line has gotten worse, and the tackles have not been very good. The passing game, obviously, for all of its flaws, there's one NFL wide receiver definitively on this team, and then a couple of guys who could argue for a lower spot somewhere. Justin Watson should not be an NFL team's number 2 receiver, probably not number 3, maybe not number 4. And they lose Juju. MVS, just completely different player this year for whatever reason. That's something for him and the Chiefs to figure out, I guess. But you can just sort of pick at actually every position group where, all right, so Travis Kelce, another year older, starts the year injured, playing really banged up early on, and then continues to be the focal point from opposing defenses the rest of the year. every layer. We haven't really talked much about Jerick McKinnon going to injured reserve, and now he's out the rest of the regular season. And you'd think if they had a lot of hope for the postseason, they'd probably try to sneak him on the active roster until that point. Now you have a running back room that's going to have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and then next week maybe LaMichael Pirine and Deneric Prince. That might be your trio in the backfield, or they call up the Cardinals guy that they out of the practice squad, whose name escapes me at the moment, Williams, I think. But point being, like there are crumbling elements to every position group from a schematic level. And from a vibes level that maybe they started in training camp, but certainly now the vibes have been horrendous for a month. I can't expect different things. I think the Chiefs have almost as good a chance as anybody other than the Ravens in the AFC to like have a couple of really hot games. I don't think they're going to do it 3 times in a row, though. Like that feels like a foolish bet for me.
Let's hear from Patrick Mahomes after the game yesterday. Those 2 turnovers were debilitating, backbreaking. I mean, as much as we talk about all the different things that go on in the game, I mean, I'd love to know the winning percentage for a team that has 2 defensive touchdowns scored against them. What that winning percentage would be. The Chiefs had opportunities even after that, but could not take advantage of those. Here's Patrick Mahomes talking about both of the turnovers, the fumble, and then that pick 6.
Yeah, he made a good play, man. He was off coverage, read it probably by the alignment or something like that, and just made a good play. I just can't make that throw. I try to be on time with it, but he obviously made a great play on there and got the pick 6.
Patrick, what about the fumble? Can you explain what happened there?
Yeah, I was supposed to take the handoff, and we didn't have a good exchange. Just like any other way, we worked on it all week. They had got some penetration with their defensive line, and we didn't make it happen. But those are things you just can't let happen. You secure the handoff first, and then let the rest of the play develop.
They practiced it all week by Mahomes getting the handoff. So why did Pacheco pull it? I mean, it's like little things like maybe it's one of those to where, in a basketball game, like, well, I want to be the hero. I want to be the one that makes the play. I want to be the hero. I want to be the one that makes the play. All right, my turn offense. My turn to shoot. You shot last time. It's my turn to shoot. That my turn offense. That's so annoying. I don't know if that's a symptom of, this is what we typically do, but I'm just going to pull it. Attention to detail. I better not pull it, or Eric Bieniemy's going to get on my ass. I'm just simply going to hand it off. Didn't pull it. We got to fix these little small miscues. We're just a tick off from handing that ball off to the quarterback there in the backfield. Mahomes continued with the level of concern with the offense that is struggling right now.
I think more than anything, it's just consistency. I think I've said it, but it's just, you see drives where we drive it right down the field, score, and we're doing everything the right way, and then you see drives where we kind of hurt ourselves. You see drives where we stall out quick. I think it's just that we have to continue to prove it because defenses they're not changing. It's a lot of the same coverages by different variations by different teams, and they're good at flipping the coverages, playing man when they need to, playing zone when they need to, and then counting on us to make mistakes, and we have. And so I think just we got to clean. If we clean it up, we'll be able to score points. It's just we got to clean it up. We're 2 games left. You have to do it, and if we don't, we'll be going home. So I think if we clean it up, If we clean it up, we can beat anybody. I truly believe that. But we got to prove that we can do it.
That's as damning of a commentary by Patrick Mahomes, right?
Yep.
Of the offense.
Yep.
Essentially, he's saying defenses are not scared of us at all. They're not even doing much exotic stuff. They're just sort of doing the same thing, and we keep hurting ourselves. You know why? Because the defenses are saying, you're not good enough. We know you're going to hurt yourself. We don't have to be exotic out here. And if they're not exotic and doing all these crazy different coverages and the receivers still can't get open, oh boy.
And it's the same philosophies, even as they're trying to, defenses are still trying to make Mahomes have to read them and figure out what's going on. But they know that the punishment for gambling against this Chiefs offense and getting it wrong is minimal. The reward for just sticking to a bunch of receivers who haven't gotten open in 6 weeks, that's a relatively easy assignment. And NFL defenses are too good for them to know exactly what you want to do every play.
One thing that I think is was interesting, and I can't wait for the All-22 to see a couple things. One, what the secondary looked like, what the wide receivers were looking like, because there were some clean pockets that Mahomes left, and something that we mentioned in the first hour. Like there were times where the offensive line held up, but is there a trust that the offensive line is going to hold up for this guy to break free? Or, you know what, I'm just going to bail right now because I see a lane, and maybe if I do this, then somebody else can pop open down the field. And playing both plays from a defensive standpoint. The original play, you're playing on defense, and then the second play when it breaks down and now you got to go and cover somebody else. It really felt like the Raiders were like, no, this is our zone. And no matter what Mahomes does, we're playing in this spot. We're not going to get beat on the second play. And if Mahomes has to run and pick up 8 or 9 yards, okay, he picks up 8 or 9 yards. But we're not going to overreact and he's going to pick up 20 yards over our head or anything like that. Whereas against the 49ers last night, or against the Raiders last night for the 49ers on defense, when Lamar's in the open field, it's a little bit different. It's because he can pick up 30 or 40 on a play. They had 3rd and 16 right before half, or 3rd and 18 right before half. And he scrambles and he picks up like 25 yards. Like it was amazing what Lamar was doing. And when Lamar was breaking out of the pocket, he had open receivers. It's a little bit of a different respect in terms of the legs for opposing teams. Mahomes was doing what he had to do with his legs to pick up first downs and things like that. But I think that kind of goes along with what he was saying and what we're kind of talking about is that defenses are saying, even if Mahomes is going to run and he picks up the first down, that sucks, he got a first down. But we aren't overreacting to that to where we are now giving up wider gaps in our defensive game plan and our schemes and our coverage so that guys are getting open. We're staying with these guys, and if Mahomes is going to beat us with his legs, great. He's not going to beat us 25 yards over our head.
Right, and that's shucks. The Chiefs' offense converted 3rd and 4, and now they're at their own 40-yard line. I guess this next set of downs might be the one where there's a crippling mistake. I cannot stress enough that the Raiders' defense scored more points than the Raiders' offense, and that's with us giving them credit for the 2-point conversion. Like, the Raiders scored more points when the Chiefs' offense was on the field than when the Raiders' offense was on the field. When you play football that way, even if you have an offense more competent than what the Raiders were doing yesterday, those mistakes turn into points pretty regularly. Points off turnovers shouldn't be as literal as they were yesterday, but I think the most damning thing that I'm taking from the game yesterday is that on a uniform agnostic test, like I would have thought they were being coached by Brandon Staley. I would have thought it was a late season game by a team whose coach was about to get fired. And not that Andy Reid should get fired. I'm saying that's the way they played. But that, I think, is the worst thing to come out of that game. The second place thing for me right now is that defenses are afraid of what exactly? With an offense that has the greatest quarterback currently living and the greatest tight end of all time. That offense has nothing. They have no answers. They don't scare defenses at all. That offense, man, that was annoying when Alex Smith was the quarterback. It was like, oh, God, they're still building these weapons here, but this Chiefs team had an entire year where a wide receiver didn't catch a touchdown, and there are more things to be afraid of than defenses are giving you right now. I mean, there is no respect for the Chiefs offense being an explosive unit in any way right now. And I don't know how, not that it's all the coaching staff or all Matt Nagy or whatever, but I don't know how Matt Nagy and Andy Reid are sleeping at night right now watching their offense look so toothless.
This is, it's uncharted territory for the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes because to me, it feels like all of these things are going on and working against the Chiefs or working against themselves and issues in whether it's internally or on the field. But to me, this is sort of what a generic playoff team looks like.
Yeah.
Good enough to win some games, have some games where you just look awful, have some games where like, oh, man, if they played like that you start to, it's any NCAA tournament bracket that comes out. You picture your team, how they go, oh, this team can go to the Sweet 16. Well, you do this and that. You're playing that team, and these things happen, and everything looks great on paper in your mind. I mean, if the 15 seed were to beat the 2 seed, that'd be awesome as a 7-10 seed, and then you get to play this, the scrubby team that beat Arizona. That's pretty cool, and now you're in the Sweet 16. Then you got to go out and actually play the game. Like, you can picture it, but this is what a generic playoff team looks like, and we haven't seen one with Patrick Mahomes. We've seen it with Alex Smith at quarterback and Andy Reid as a coach. That they can get in the playoffs, but nobody fears them. They're not going to if they make a run, it's going to be, wow, that was really surprising that this team made a run and they're in the Super Bowl or even in the AFC Championship game. And that would be hosting a divisional round game where your defense doesn't give up a touchdown in that game, and yet you still can't win because, boy, that kind of feels like it would be a possibility this year, right? I mean, It would not shock anybody if you're like, wow, the Chiefs lost in the playoffs at home and the defense didn't give up a touchdown.
Yep.
Well, that happened before Patrick Mahomes, and that's the feel, and that's what's so uncharted territory about this, and why maybe there's more frustration is because we've been through that, we've lived through that, and now you see what Super Bowl teams look like, and you feel like you've got to take advantage of every single year to try to, stack as many championships as possible, and you're watching this team and wondering, is this more Alex Smith or is this Patrick Mahomes out there playing? Because this offense looks like it, and this is just a generic playoff team that when the bracket comes out in the playoffs, Josh, and you go, well, they got this team at home, and boy, then they'll have to go to Miami, and well, they beat Miami and Germany, and then if this happens, then maybe they go, and the Ravens, well, you got Lamar Jackson that, he's got one playoff win in his career. If the Chiefs are playing the Ravens in the AFC Championship game, he would have 2 total in his career, and the Chiefs would have just gone on the road like, this. And then at the end of the day, like, you're talking yourself into things that you just haven't seen and saying if all things go right, the same way the Chiefs are saying, if we just turn these things around, if we just fix these little things, these small things, that we'll get it figured out. We'll get it figured out. Okay, yeah, 2024, unfortunately, that's what it feels like.
In your NCAA metaphor, it's like they're like the 2 seed that lost early in their conference championship tournament, and it's like, that maybe those games didn't really matter. But like, they limped out down the stretch a little bit. Here's like, just look at the peers in the AFC right now.
Mm-hmm.
The Chiefs are finishing their season like the Jags. I mean, and also like Jags, but like they're finishing the season like Jacksonville, except for Trevor Lawrence on his, I believe, legitimately not an exaggeration, his 3rd injury in 3 weeks. But the Chiefs are a 9-6 football team. That is absolutely a generic playoff team. They have one more win than the Jags. They have the same record as a Bills team who 3 weeks ago their season was on life support until they came together through the power of teamwork and other things. The Chiefs are 9-6, and the Colts and Texans and Steelers and Joe Burrow-less Bengals are all 8-7. Those are teams with 4 backup quarterbacks right now in this stretch of games. I mean, the Colts haven't had Anthony Richardson. C.J. Stroud's been out. The Steelers are on Merry Christmas from Rudolph. And the Bengals, we're going to have to learn Jake Browning's name if he, as it feels right now, maybe inevitably beats the Chiefs next week. If the Raiders would have gotten the Chiefs the first time, or if the Broncos would have gotten the Chiefs twice, these teams would all have the same record in the AFC West. It is just sort of this tar pit of the AFC right now. And as you talk about, wanting to play your best football at the right time, the thing that you say whenever you start slow but finish fast, and you pretend like you did it on purpose. The Chiefs are in their worst stretch right now, while the Ravens look like a legitimate Super Bowl team, while the Dolphins are, hey, you know what? They did a little bit without Tyreek Hill. Now they're coming in, and maybe no Jalen Waddle, but you see them coming up with answers to some of their problems, and I don't feel like we've gotten the new answer from the Chiefs in a long time.
Yeah, and if they lose to the Bengals, they'll have the exact same record as Cincinnati. They'll both be 9-7 on the season. Just like, I mean, it's I don't know. Sometimes it can leave you speechless.
Yep.
And you're just simply annoyed and frustrated and things like that. And certainly the Chiefs are probably, as much or more annoyed and frustrated because it's their job and their livelihood, and it's what they've put in their effort and work all through the offseason and everything like that. But it's a difficult struggle and this tug of war that I'm having right now, Josh, of frustration, watching this team unravel, knowing that it's a lack of discipline, knowing that coaches are the issue this year, knowing that roster construction, while understanding the salary cap and Mahomes having the cap hit that he does, and there's always going to be a position that will not be fully taken care of, that you'll just have to find a way to get through because of the salary cap, feeling all of those things while also acknowledging they are still the Super Bowl champions. And this calendar year still, they won the Super Bowl, and this would have been the greatest honeymoon ride of years past if this same thing happened in like 2017 or 18.
Yeah.
It would have been like, they're struggling. I mean, this sucks, man, but, it's so tough to win in the NFL. And you just can't stay. That's why there's no repeat champions. And it's so difficult to do this and so difficult. The Eagles are struggling as well. But this one feels like a dominant run, a quote-unquote dynasty opportunity to really be in that mix of quote-unquote dynasties, if you go back to another Super Bowl, is sort of being washed away a little bit with all of the things that are happening. And there's going to have to be massive change in the offseason, and it's not just, well, you keep going about doing what you're doing offensively, they'll figure it out. They've got to make some massive changes this offseason. If that's to the coaching staff to get things back in line, then it's to the coaching staff. If that's personnel, then it's to the personnel. If it's front office, then it's front office. But they've got to, identify those things as to why this season has gone this way with the players that you have and the certain players that you're paying in different spots. And guys who are free agents, and Snead and Chris Jones might be on different teams next year. While you might be better offensively, you might just be rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic by, getting worse defensively. Although I'd rather have a team that's really awesome offensively and middle of the pack defensively, because we see what happens on the inverse and how much of a struggle it is. So much to the point, Josh, that I, in the game yesterday, was like, come on, Richie James, do something with this punt.
Oh, yeah. Wow, what growth for you.
Yeah, come on, do something. Because who else was going to make a play?
Yep.
Like, it was like, come on, Richie, let's get a punt return here. Come on, man, let's get something going. That's, darn it. All right, just got tripped up. Shoot, that was so close to maybe breaking that thing. I guess the Chiefs offense is going to have to figure it out.
This is the weakest, lamest pseudo victory lap of all time, but I'm going to do it. This is why I keep saying, hey, I hate to be the one to tell you this, but I think Kadarius Toney is probably one of this team's like 3 best playmakers, despite the fact the only plays he's really made this year have been for opposing teams. Just because this is the most NPC offense of all time. It's just like, all right, we're either going to punt return here, Richie James, or we're going to go ahead and see 7 consecutive screens to Rashee Rice and just hope it works. Otherwise, Mahomes is going to lose faith in somebody somewhere down the field or on the offensive line and just take off, and then he's going to get cracked in the ribs for a 6-yard gain. Whoop-de-doo, what an offense.
I mean, I am perfectly fine if Kadarius Toney returns and he's the punt returner.
Yeah, he should be. He legitimately should be.
Because the amount of plays that he was playing and getting 2 receptions, 5 yards, 3 receptions, 25 yards, 2 receptions, 12 yards, 1 reception, 18 yards, 1 reception, 4 yards, 1 reception, 13 yards, as opposed to Richie James getting in there and having 3 receptions, 54 yards.
Yeah.
Now, there was a 45-yarder in there, but guess what? There was a 45-yarder in there, and he caught the ball.
Yep.
He caught the ball.
Let him try. That's fine.
Yeah, switch it up. Kadarius Toney, you're returning punts. Richie James, you're a wide receiver now. They ran on 3rd down and short. They ran the Tyreek Hill, Chad Henne against the Browns play to Richie James. I mean, that was that little roll right. Richie James clear out by Kelsey, and Richie James lining up on the inside of Kelsey. Kelsey runs the little drag route. Richie James, 3 steps, boom, cuts to the first down marker. Mahomes rolls right, hits Richie James, and that was the play, Chad Henne to Tyreek Hill. They ran that to Richie James. It's not like they don't trust him to do anything, or they would have picked somebody else to run that route. So let's see what he does there in the game and see if he can get different opportunities. I don't know. And Kadarius Toney, have him returning punts. Richie James is a fine punt returner, better than Sky Moore. But the best punt returner on this team is Kadarius Toney, and the better of the wide receivers between the two is Richie James.
And hey, you know what? No joke. If Kadarius Toney can go next week, he might actually play running back. Like, I don't know how many reps necessarily, but in terms of like legit designed runs, they've trusted him to do that a few times, and you have no Jerick McKinnon. I do not necessarily think that Kadarius Toney is going to do anything in pass pro, but also, if he's in the backfield on a passing play and you know he can't be the one that's back there protecting, put him in the flat. Put him in the flat, an inch in front of Mahomes, so if it's a drop forward pass, it should go straight down. Don't let him bat anything up. Throw it at his knees. But like, that might really be where we're at. And last week, we spent a little time talking about making Clyde Edwards-Helaire play slot receiver. So, I mean, that's where this offense is at right now.
I mean, hell, CeeDee Lamb lined up in the backfield and got the ball in a handoff for the Cowboys. You know, it wouldn't be. And Kadarius Toney's done it a few times already this year.
Yep.
So, you're right. If it is Pacheco out, Clyde Edwards-Helaire and LaMichael Pirine, and Toney plays, yeah, Kadarius Toney might receive a couple of handoffs, and it's not like this team is allergic to throwing, down the line of scrimmage,
right,
or throwing the ball in the backfield. They did it a lot. Their first couple of drives, it was like, hey, let me throw this 6-yard loss to Pacheco. Hey, let me throw this 2-yard loss to Pacheco. Like, Okay, all right. The Raiders are like, yeah, keep it in front, man. We're watching out for screens. And even the best screen play was sniffed out and covered. Mm-hmm. It was just a great individual play by Clyde Edwards-Helaire to shed the tackle and then get up and run down the field. I just wish he would have cut back inside with two offensive players there to block. Because, not his fault that they get first and goal, and the Chiefs decide that, hey, let's throw the ball right down the line of scrimmage to Kelsey. All right, let's do it on the other side. Okay, let's try to hit Rashee Rice 3 yards short of the end zone. Okay, let's give Rashee Rice a chance to go up and get a jump ball in a play that's not even really a jump ball play.
No.
I mean, he's running away from it. He's blanketed, and the ball was thrown short. I'm not sure Rashee Rice could have done anything there. It's like, I would have loved to see a jump ball opportunity because he's got a knack for coming down with them. But when he's going to have to stop and jump backwards and the guy is playing it perfectly and is not going through him, is just jumping to knock the ball away, Rashee Rice is not Superman to go and jump with the guy that's there and the ball a little bit short. That ball's got to be thrown further outside. It wasn't, and they end up turning the ball over on downs on that play. So,
and mentioning that from Rice also just reminds me that there was that play earlier in the game where Patrick Mahomes threw him the ball before he was turning around, and he turned around and it was too late. His ball was off the spot a little bit, and he wasn't looking for it. And Mahomes on the broadcast feed, you can see him holding his hands up in the motion of, "Hey, get your hands up. You're making this turn. Come up with your hands up because the ball is coming." Like, for all of the great things that Rashee Rice has done so far, when you talk about him as a rookie receiver and already having the issues beating man or whatever, but like in that position, it's just, hey, mental error, young receiver, the guy who has been arguably your offensive player of the year, non-star category, I guess, right? That guy was not ready for the thing Mahomes needed him to be doing in that moment. Richie James, for all of his positives, whenever he motioned into the backfield in that play, the Chiefs had to burn the timeout on 4th and short. He and Isaiah Pacheco were just pointing around. I don't know who made the mistake there. It was either James or Pacheco. Point being, those are two guys you'd like to rely on. Obviously Pacheco, but in terms of like a veteran wide receiver, Richie James should not be a guy making a mistake there, and a guy that's been in the offense for 2 years, Isaiah Pacheco, should not be making a mistake there. That's still happening. It's unimaginative, and you have all of those mistakes. That's where it does have to, on some level, be coaching, because player execution and player readiness can also certainly be on the players. It's a team effort, but man, everybody's got a slice of this one, and it stinks.
And and we'll take a time out. I do want to hear some other clips from Reed and Mahomes, and then some defensive players too. But it's one of the things to where I question, Patrick Mahomes when he talks about, hey, we'll get this cleaned up. We can beat anybody. If we get this thing cleaned up, we can beat anybody in the league. I fully believe that. That's fine. He can believe that. While they talk about mistakes or penalties and turnovers being the issue, it's also just at times just players. Because I've complimented Clyde Edwards-Helaire a number of times. It was a 2nd down and 6, and there was a pretty massive hole on the right side that opened up, and he got 1 yard out of it. He's not as fast to the hole as other guys, and the linebacker, I can't remember who it was, but got a hold of him, brought him down, 1 yard gain. That felt like it could have been, if that was McKinnon or Pacheco, do they hit the hole a little bit quicker, get past that linebacker that was coming to fill, and maybe it's a 4 or 5 or 6 yard gain, and it's a first down, or it's 3rd and short. Instead, it was 3rd and 5, and then that was the play to Rashee Rice that you're talking about, that Rashee Rice didn't turn around in time, and Mahomes and he were on the wrong page. Now, Mahomes clearly trusts Rashee Rice, because on 4th down and 5, he went back to him. He just got tackled in the open field by the defender. But Travis Kelce had already committed pass interference, so that means there's no other pass interference that can be called in the game on that particular play. Once one person commits pass interference, everything is fair game. You can do whatever you want, apparently. But he went back to him on 4th down. It was incomplete. And it's not like he was afraid to throw it to him again. I don't know if that's where it's like, well, this is one of the guys I trust. I'm not sure. But even that, it's like, well, if you fix mistakes and you stop with the penalties and the turnovers, okay, it doesn't stop a player getting caught in a huge ass hole on 2nd down and 6, and the penalties and the turnovers don't stop a player from not turning around quick enough that Mahomes wants to just fire it and put it on you, and you catch it in that space in the zone, turn around and get upfield. Instead, you're running to the linebacker, and by the time you see the linebacker there, then you're stopping and turning around, and Mahomes has already thrown the ball and it's already past you. Well, yeah, Mahomes would look at that as a mistake, but that's not a turnover or a penalty.
A huge what?
I don't know what I said. I blacked out there. What did I say? A huge what?
A huge hole of variety.
Did I say that?
Nah. Forget about it till Friday, please.
Did I say that?
No.
I'm just sitting here talking about there was it was in the zone.
Is great.
Oh well, it was in the zone, but in a zone defense, it looked like there was a huge hole that he wants him to sit down. See, we're trying to figure out what's going on with the Chiefs, Josh. This is the problem. This is what's going on in their meeting rooms right now.
A lot of finger pointing.
These guys are playing grab ass, and they're just sitting there.
Hey, careful.
You know, taking the Raiders lightly, worrying about Christmas. 1, 2, 3 Cancooning. And I'm sitting here like Matt Nagy trying to figure out what's going on, guys. Let's have some discipline in here, guys. Let's go. Ridiculous. Lack of respect. That's what hurts the most. Well, the other thing hurts the most, but lack of respect, that hurts the most too. We'll hear from Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Nick Bolton, Chris Jones. They will weigh in on some of the holes on the team that need to be filled. Next. Don't worry, Josh. None of the texters heard what you heard, so
good.
Not sure what you're talking about. Nobody on the text line heard the same thing and texted about it.
Appreciate the texters
not
having the ear for the most important things on this show, of which you just witnessed an iconic moment of.
Oh man, that might be a tournament team.
I think it's. I've not gone back to review the tape yet. I'll get the all 22 during the commercial break at the end of this hour. But after I review the film, I think that might be a tournament team.
Yeah. Let's hear from Chris Jones. And he's probably that to a lot of offenses at times.
Chris Jones, he is just addicted to the pass rush, to playing defense.
Yep,
I'm not doing a third one. Not doing a third one. The third one's going to be the one that gets one of us in trouble. I'm willing to end that bit right there.
I'm going to read what you wrote here as a throw for one of the Chris Jones clips. Is he's been on both sides of imbalanced Chiefs teams. Anything he leans on from those times to encourage the offense now?
I think we encourage each other. I think we continue to push each other throughout the week. I've been very fortunate, man. This offense for the last, 5, 6, 7 years has put up so many points for us, has won so many games, and that's the thing about this league, man. As you get better, as you win, good players tend to leave, right? And then you continue to build off of younger guys. And we got a young group, a young core, whether it's offense, defense side of the ball. And we got to continue to hone in on those guys, making sure they're getting better week in and week out. And I think and I believe that as we continue to push those guys before the end of the year, they'll continue to hit strides into the playoffs.
The defense has been there, done that, but offensively, this is the first time we've really seen, issues like this. It's always been where Mahomes can go and save you, or the offense can go and save you. The defense, the defense do one thing, stop the pass because you're going to be playing from in front. So it's not all on them. And, I would much rather have the strength of the team be on the offense that can go and put points on the board, as opposed to the defense. It's like, well, we can stop teams from putting points on the board. Yes. But a bad offense can also put points on the board for the other team.
Right.
It can't just then make up for it. A really dominant defense and a team with a bad offense can go and score some points defensively. We've seen that from the Raiders. They've got 4 touchdowns defensively the last 2 weeks. Do the Raiders. The Chiefs have, 5 touchdowns offensively the last 2 weeks? The Raiders have 4 defensively in the last couple of weeks. So, but there has been the element of the offense has been able to go out and do that. All the points they scored in the second half against the Eagles, they attained every single yard available in the second half against that Eagles defense that they wanted to. Every yard they wanted to gain, they did. And now it's pulling teeth to do that. And you've got to look at all of the different issues that are there and why it's one off season to the next that we're looking at this, and it's been this bad, and this game has this impact on this team that feels like they are a rudderless ship right now with this offense, and that's not how it's supposed to look. That's not how it's been with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, and that's not how it was ever supposed to look when it's, if you give him an offensive line and time to throw, he's going to make average guys look really good. Well, that riddle has been solved, okay? This is not a just break glass in case of emergency Patrick Mahomes, Obi-Wan Mahomey, you're our only hope, save us. This is a Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks had a falling out because Russ would have liked to get some help from time to time. Aaron Rodgers, they never draft a first-round wide receiver, even though they had Devontae Adams and, Jordy Nelson, et cetera, and Randall Cobb. But they never draft a first-round wide receiver. They need to give some more help to Aaron Rodgers, whatever. And he was there a long time. But, we've seen this in the past. The Chiefs don't want to get sideways with their franchise quarterback. They have to make massive moves in the offseason to figure out that wide receiver position. And, Josh, they also have to make moves in the coaching department somehow, some way. Go out and get a veteran wide receiver coach or somebody else to come in, even if it's not just, Connor Embry, if it's others. Like, there are so many guys in different spots, and Eric Bieniemy is gone, and Matt Nagy in his spot, and this offense has just fallen apart at the seams and small little things here, there. And maybe when Chris Jones was talking about, Josh, when he was saying when you're winning, you got some guys go elsewhere and they go to different teams, et cetera. Well, I mean, Orlando Brown could have stayed with the Chiefs. They wanted to sign him, and he chose elsewhere. And the market did not materialize the way that he thought. It materialized worse than what the Chiefs were even offering, but they had already gone the route of Juwan Taylor. Juju Smith-Schuster, again, the Chiefs wanted to bring him back, just not on a 3-year deal. So they had some, they win the Super Bowl, but they didn't have, like, their team getting rated. Juan Thornhill went somewhere else, but, Brian Cook slides into that spot. They didn't want to overpay for a safety when they had an answer at that position. But coaching over the years, you've got a guy who's in his first year as a wide receiver coach, a guy who's in his first year as a running back coach. Andy Heck's supposed to be an offensive line, whisperer.
First-year quarterbacks coach also, by the way. That's the one that I always skip over because it's still Mahomes. But, Mahomes seems frustrated and not trusting his wide receivers.
Yeah, absolutely. And whatever's going on in the pocket or reading the defense a certain way or reading where the wide receivers are going to be in a certain spot. And Andy Heck is an offensive line whisperer, yet this offensive line's gone backwards. Why is that the case? And, Kurt Warner tweeted out after the game just about, it says, I can't remember the tweet that he said during the game, but then he was like, I can't wait. I need to go back and watch. So then he tweets out last night at like 12:30 in the morning, said, watch the Chiefs offense. Could have been the worst overall game by this offense in Mahomes' era. First, credit Raiders D, who outcoached and outplayed KC. Second, KC was bad everywhere. Mahomes missed reads and throws. Concepts were confusing. They got manhandled up front, etc. It's getting late, people. Kurt Warner, missing reads. Concepts were confusing. They got manhandled up front. Yeah, we've talked about that from the offensive line part of it. That, maybe they just didn't bring it. And it was a Raiders team that was looking for violence. They talked about that during the game. That was clearly the message all week there in Vegas. Violence, looking for violence. Want to be a violent game. And the offensive line wasn't ready to match that. But I would love to know some of the particulars of when he talks about the concepts were confusing that the Chiefs offense was running.
And that, again, I'm belaboring a point that I think it may have been Kant who tweeted originally, that there are backup quarterbacks that are being able to put together competent offensive play around the rest of the NFL right now. And the fact that the Chiefs just seem so thoroughly out of answers that it's just spam screens, let Mahomes scramble, and if no one's getting open downfield, why is MVS's snap share up so much in this game? Not that it's whatever, 4 snaps more than Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice was out there a lot. That's not really the point. Why is MVS out there? You lose Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney. That means more Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Well, that didn't work the other way around. You couldn't take MVS off the field for more Toney or Sky or Richie James or whoever it was going to be earlier in this season. So now he's back. Not to make it all about Marquez Valdez-Scantling, but the step back last year was frustrating. Last year was inconsistent, and you get the great AFC Championship game performance, but his year is still kind of a mix and match. This season, he has been borderline useless most of the season. I mean, in this case, yesterday he was just running cardio on Christmas Day, and if Justin Watson is also doing that, you are already cutting yourself out of 2 of your perhaps 3 wide receivers on the field at any given moment. It's just brutal.
We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, wrap up this hour. We'll talk with Braden Gall, some college football discussion. What hasn't been brutal is some of the college football play this year. Kansas in action tonight against UNLV, the Fighting Barry Odoms, taking on the Leipolids. It is right here on Sports Radio 810. Thursday night, K-State in action. And Friday night, Mizzou in action. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Continue rolling. More Zone next. the Chiefs. Don't you do it, NFL. The fact that there's a leap year next year, right? That means Christmas will be on a Wednesday.
Thank God.
So then no Christmas Day game. But that means in 2025, it'll be Thursday. Are we going to have the Thursday night doubleheader Christmas? Ugh.
Oh, Halloween's a Thursday, too.
Oh, there we go. At least it'll be one weekend where you know when everybody's going to be...
Whoa, Thanksgiving's a Thursday next year.
No, it's not. It's a leap year.
food to Midwestern families since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We'll talk with Braden Gall coming up about 1:20 or so. 913-912-4810. DVOA, one of the advanced metrics that's out there, and Aaron Schatz, who put that thing together, no longer at Football Outsiders, but FT in Fantasy, something like that. He posted this morning, best DVOA through 15 games going back to 1981 to this year. The Baltimore Ravens have the fourth highest overall DVOA behind the 2007 New England Patriots, the 1991 Washington Commanders, and the 1985 Chicago Bears. Then Baltimore. Oddly enough, right behind Baltimore is San Francisco this year. It is number 4 and 5 all time, according to DVOA, are playing this year. They played last night as well. But Baltimore made some statements last night. I will say that. And Lamar Jackson is going to be a two-time MVP in this league. For as much flack as he has taken over the years, that guy's going to win 2 MVPs before Josh Allen and Joe Burrow win 1. I don't know if that's shocking, surprising, if it's, playmakers around a quarterback that's already a playmaker. But, Brock Purdy was the MVP heavy favorite until last night's 4 interceptions, which I was fine with because I was playing against Brock Purdy in fantasy.
Oh, look at you. What a gift last night.
It was a big gift. I knew the whole week would come down to the quarterback matchup. I had Jalen Hurts. He had Brock Purdy. It was a good day.
Hey, speaking of the whole week, I got an audio clip for you. I'm curious if you'd like to hear it.
Probably not.
Well, let's go ahead and go to memory lane anyway. This is all the way back from last hour.
Well, if you fix mistakes and you stop with the penalties and the turnovers, okay. It doesn't stop a player getting caught in a huge asshole on 2nd down and 6, and the penalties and the turnovers don't stop a player from not turning around quick enough. That Mahomes wants to just fire it and put it on you, and you catch it in that space in the zone, turn around and get upfield. Instead, you're running to the linebacker, and by the time you see the linebacker there, then you're stopping and turning around, and Mahomes has already thrown the ball and it's already past you. Well, yeah, Mahomes would look at that as a mistake, but that's not a turnover or a penalty.
A huge what? What's crazy is upon further review, you're about to say a wide, I think. You went to a woo, and then decided to pivot to huge, and then it was the next couple of words.
Yeah, clearly the word that I needed to change was either wide or huge. That in my mind apparently was the issue. It's like in Christmas Vacation where he's is he worried? Yeah, he's bleeping rocks. He shouldn't say that. Sorry, bleeping bricks. No, he's in a why. I don't want to go down that route. A huge hole right there that the offensive line created, and yet the guy can't see it. There were worse things said at the stadium yesterday.
Oh yeah, no, you're fine. You're completely fine. That just is. It's just a really special one. I'm just glad we all got that was your gift to us for Christmas.
You're welcome. We all can unwrap that one together and figure out.
We already did.
The hell. That's see, my mind was working differently. I was just talking. I didn't have that in my mind. You guys and your sophomoric, sense of humor. It's ridiculous.
My sophomoric sense of humor radar has actually been so on point since I started with the show.
Really?
I know what I have to search for the cuts. Like I know I'm like a truffle pig. I'm just rooting around in the dirt and trying to find those sweet fungi. And that was one right there.
Are you excited for the bowl game that's on right now? Bowling Green in Minnesota?
Yeah, I'm locked. I got my house on whoever's hopefully winning. What's the bowl right now?
I don't even know what the bowl game is called because they're focusing on the quarterback's fiance. Like, do we really care about people showing relationships and the significant other in the stands?
Yeah, grow up. Not in my sport.
Come on, man. Oh, you're engaged, and he's a quarterback, and he's in college, and but it's Minnesota and Bowling Green in the 2023 Quick Lane Bowl.
Quick Lane Bowl.
That's right, otherwise known as the HOV. The Bowling Green quarterback is Connor Bazelak, former Mizzou quarterback.
Well, no kidding.
Yeah,
All
Connor
right.
Bazelak quarterbacking Bowling Green after transferring to Indiana last year, paving the way for Brady Cook to go and cook, and transferring to Bowling Green this year, now leading them to the Quick Lane Bowl. You know, Bowling Green wasn't getting to the Quick Lane Bowl without Connor Bazelak. So there you go. And a 5-7 Minnesota team. There's so many bowls that 5-7 Minnesota got in to a bowl.
Has he been in college for 14 years?
I think 2018 might have been his.
He's got stats going back to 19, yeah, for sure.
I think he was a redshirt freshman when he played in games for Mizzou, so I think he was the 2018 recruiting class.
Yeah, I think
and
that looks
in
right.
2023.
That looks right, yeah.
That's not that, man. I mean, it's his third team. This is normal in college football now. Just normal.
It's just so weird seeing college quarterbacks who look 15 years older than Brock Purdy.
That's exactly right, yeah. And by the way, a little bit of news out of the desert where Ohio State thinks they're playing. But at the Cotton Bowl, Marvin Harrison spotted at practice, not in pads, sitting on the sideline wearing his Ohio State uniform. This is going to come as a complete and total surprise, but it looks like Marvin Harrison might opt out of the bowl game.
I thought your news was about to be the inverse, and I was like, "Well, that's a shocking big deal." Like, oh no, that would
no.
Make sense.
He had all we had known is that he had been practicing with the team. Air quotes. Connor Bazelak, 50-yard touchdown. Take that. See, you learned that from playing with Barry Odom, who's now at UNLV, and that's what you got to look forward to there.
Full circle.
46-yard touchdown. Sorry, I overestimated that. But yeah, so he was spotted today at practice that was open, and Marvin Harrison not practicing with the team. So it looks like he may not play on Friday in a bowl game. That doesn't mean nearly as much to him as being a top 5 pick in the NFL draft will be. So there you go. So maybe a little bit easier for Mizzou. Not even maybe. It will be easier for Mizzou. Not that it'll be easier, but the task is not as tall as it would have been had Marvin Harrison Jr. played. Mizzou back to an underdog, by the way. After being
really?
at 2.5-point favorites, they are now +1 at DraftKings. And I don't know. That was early this morning. So I'm going to look and see if it has changed since Marvin Harrison changed out of his uniform. Nope, still +1.
Do you think Marvin Harrison Sr. would go for like 600 yards in a full season with the Chiefs this year? Right now,
I'd like to. I would like to see him try.
Wide receiver 2 at minimum, I think.
Yeah, I don't want him living in the city, but I mean, certainly, you know. I mean, I don't wash my car very often anyway, so I probably wouldn't even affect me. So it'd be fine. But you know, hey, see what he can do out there. You know, at this point, any port in a storm, right?
Trying to figure out what the worst.
Terrell Owens available?
That might. Deshaun Jackson is definitely too high on my big board.
You know, the Chiefs need another X factor.
Receivers.
They need not Dante Hall. They need another X factor out there.
Honestly, Dante Hall, maybe the super fan. Either one of them, I would take at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody can get some action out here. I mean, come on. Listen, what with the Chiefs right now is an X factor who can take a licking and keep on ticking.
That's right.
And I know that he can do that.
You know, I was thinking more Des Bryant, but that's fine. I mean, if it's the actual X factor, that's cool. If it's Dante Hall, you know, take a chance there. Des Bryant, you know, hey, see what happens. Ocho Cinco, Hushmanzada. Give him a chance, man, you know. Or maybe Justin Ross. I don't know.
No, let's go back to TJ Hushmanzada.
Maybe him. I don't know. He's actually on the team. I don't know.
John Ross wanted to get released so he could get. There was something about that a few weeks ago that kind of bubbled by. He wanted to officially be able to mount a comeback.
At this point, Ross Geller.
That would probably help.
I mean, name a Ross and let's see if he can do something for this team as a wide receiver. The other thing that I thought was, did you see the bet, the $5 bet?
I did, and I was immediately a skeptic about it, but I think that it seems it may be actually feasible. But I did see this.
Well, DraftKings actually tweeted it out.
Have they verified it? Okay.
DraftKings put it out and said it has hit the 14 pick anytime touchdown parlay. $5. This person bet on anytime touchdowns from Najee Harris, Gabriel Davis, Jahmyr Gibbs, DK Metcalf, Jerome Ford, Chris Rodriguez Jr., Jonathan Taylor, Calvin Ridley, James Conner, Raheem Mostert, Javonte Williams, Isaiah Pacheco, DeAndre Swift, and Christian McCaffrey. And his $5 returned $490,000. That is a nice Christmas bonus. That's more than Clark got for the Christmas bonus. I probably would have cashed out.
I don't think they offer a cash. Someone tweeted that they don't offer cash outs on anytime touchdowns. I don't know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know if that's. I definitely would have. I mean, McCaffrey being the last one is like the one guy who makes it interesting.
But it would be for the rest of my life. I would be like, of course, I'm not that lucky that, or that would be my luck that McCaffrey only one game this year has not scored a touchdown, and that was the easiest, the shortest odds of scoring a touchdown, and that's the one that doesn't come through. After 13 teams and players score a touchdown, after DK Metcalf bobbled and got a half a foot sliding in the end zone to score a touchdown, after Chris Rodriguez, who's been the third running back, scores a touchdown. I mean, after Isaiah Pacheco took a direct snap and went 12 yards for a touchdown, after DeAndre Swift scored a touchdown and then was called back because his knee barely grazed the turf and then got one later on in the game, at that point I'm like, I need to eject. There have been too many crazy things that have happened, which has to happen if you're going to hit a 14-team parlay or 14 anytime touchdown parlay, but good God, $490,000. Why didn't that guy let everybody else know what was going on?
Are we 1,000% plus 9 million? Like an almost plus 10 million? Like his odds here are plus 9,787,560. That's your. It seems like so much. And there's no comma after Pacheco, but somebody noted that there was another version of the post that maybe they had like graded out or something. I don't know. I saw plus almost 10 million.
Fake.
I know, I didn't either, but I tweeted about it because I guess I'm grinching on Christmas. Like Christmas night, I was like, I don't know about all this holiday cheer that we've got here. That seems like such crazy odds, even for a 14-player anytime touchdown parlay. And it's not. I'm sure it wasn't just the shortest odds in every group either. From Chris Rodriguez to Jahmyr Gibbs to Gabe Davis, of course. Like that, there were some real outside shots there. I don't know.
Do they make all their money back this weekend at DraftKings by everybody else throwing a couple of shekels on a 12-team or a 12-player anytime touchdown, 14-player anytime touchdown?
They are making a lot of money back on me. I mean, other people doing exactly that. Yeah.
I'll throw a dart for a few bucks.
What's a few bucks?
100,000 people. I'll throw $5 on this, and they just got their money back.
You did it. You're right. You're right.
That's why you would put it out there. That's why you would post it. Hey, guys, look at this crazy thing. This guy won $490,000. Dream the dream, man. $5, anything can happen. Just be smarter than everybody else. Work smarter, not harder, man. You can go out there and work your butt off to earn $490,000, or you can just bet on 14 different players to score a touchdown. It's that easy. Why don't more people do it? I don't understand it.
I will, of course, attempt to do some version of this weekend. I mean,
of course,
at this point, how could you not? I mean,
I will too. I mean, yes. I don't know that it'll be $5. I'm not that crazy. I mean, calm down now. Not that guy.
See, what I would have done is I would have done this. I would have looked at this and I would have said, I don't know about Gabe Davis here, and so my $5 would have been cut down to what, $200,000. Maybe I replace him with someone who definitely wouldn't have scored.
That's right. And then it's like, maybe I take this guy out. I don't feel confident about that. Maybe my $5 returning 6,000 is perfectly fine. With
Yep.
Me.
Yep.
I'm just going to take this person out and that person out. And if this person, I'm switch this one up.
If Chris Rodriguez Jr. walked in here right now in full uniform and sat down and said, I'm Chris Rodriguez Jr., I still might not recognize him.
He's on my fantasy team, on my practice squad. I almost thought about activating him this week. I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I didn't activate him on my practice squad. So got that going for me.
How's your fantasy team? How's your fantasy team going?
Well, I'm playing in the Super Bowl this week.
Yeah, oh yeah, well, give me the details of the matchup. Quarterback versus quarterback. Like a couple of the stars of the game.
See, I wish I was there because I would hope Dylan was ready to throw it to break.
Oh, man, you have less faith in your receivers than Mahomes does.
Catch up with our college football insider, Braden Gall.
Nobody cares.
Now in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Everyone has their own taste, and mine is just better.
Brought to you by Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance. Whatever you do, if you're a Missourian, we're for you. We are Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance, and we've got you covered.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you on this Tuesday edition. It is time to talk with Braden Gall, presented by Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance. As you just heard right there, he is from Athlon Sports, ESPN Radio, and many other places you can find Braden Gall, his opinion, his thoughts, his breakdown on a lot of different things, and right here in the zone on Tuesdays. Braden, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
What's going on, man? Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays,
and to
Happy
you,
Hanukkah, the festivus for the rest of it.
Absolutely, and to you as well. Did you have a nice Christmas? Nice relaxing day yesterday, unlike Chiefs fans who got a big old lump of coal?
No, in fact, maybe my day, the analogy for me personally is that my day was probably more like the offensive line meetings on the sideline in between series. Like that would probably be my Christmas for most of the day, with a 7- and 5-year-old who woke up, of course, to huge overtures by Santa the night before, of course, gifts from mom and dad, and then great grandmother comes over and we're cooking all day, and then aunts and uncles come over, and then by the time I sit down at 8:30 and the children finally go to sleep, I have no energy left. So, and didn't know who to block, didn't know how to pick up a blitzing linebacker, didn't know how to, transition from which, if they ran a stunt yesterday between the 7 and the 5-year-old, like I had no ability, the wife and I, on who to pick up. There's terrible communication. So, yeah, I assume it was very similar to the meetings on the sideline of the Kansas City offensive line yesterday. Probably more like it.
No, that makes sense. I mean, at least you would have shown up. Maybe at least you showed up to Christmas, unlike the Chiefs.
Oh, we were there.
Did not
we were there.
Show up to the game. They were also still there, celebrating apparently somewhere else. But it is college football, so we get a reprieve, Braden, from talking about the Chiefs and whatever that disaster was, and bigger picture, macro meanings from what we've seen from this Chiefs team that's gone 2-4 in the last 6 weeks. But this week, in the next 4 days, we get KU, K-State, and Mizzou all playing in a bowl game, and really for bragging rights about a conference, right? I mean, this is where, if there's a place, Braden, that you want to find out which conference is the best conference, to me, like, is there any it's the only way you can probably decide which conferences are better is by bowl game record. You would agree with that, I know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the Mountain West has a chance to prove that it is the third best conference. No, I think, I mean, obviously you're setting me up, and I appreciate the pander. I do love a good pandering, so I appreciate that. This is one of those things that actually, there's layers to this. Like, I think back in the day, and this does apply to all the things that we've talked about for I don't know how many years you and I have been doing this now. Like, that we are changing and recalibrating all the things we value, and the things that we value in this game in the 90s were, in fact, hey, if you went 6-0 in bowl games, like they were all relatively large bowl games. They were almost always featuring your best teams against the other conference's best teams. No players sat out. There wasn't a lot of money involved, and it was for the love of the game. And that was then, with fewer non-conference games, the only time you could really kind of create an opportunity to have conference bragging rights, or in my opinion, in the South, having been born in the North and lived most of my life in the South, some sort of like ancient Civil War rivalry. I don't know. That's a totally different topic for another day with my SEC brethren. But I think the other angle is like SEC people rooting for SEC teams and the old SEC chant. Now, I think it's disappeared. I actually don't hear it anymore. I don't think any of my SEC friends or family do it at all anymore. If you're a Tennessee fan chanting SEC while Alabama beats Michigan, that actually hurts Tennessee football. I think people have come around on that. I think I spent 15 years on the radio yelling at people who did that, trying to tell them, like, this doesn't make any sense for you to be rooting against your own best interest. I saw a guy on the plane. I was flying back from Florida over the weekend to get back in time for all the chaos, and there's a guy wearing an Ohio State keychain working on the airline when I flew back, and I was like, who are you rooting for? Like Bama or Michigan? like you have to hate both of them pretty equally, right? And he's like, I can never root for Michigan. I was like, good. And so,
smart.
like, if you're an Auburn fan, like, there's no way you're rooting for Alabama and chanting SEC. So I think that's one thing has changed. Fans realize that the bowl games aren't the best way to establish conference dominance. I also think fans have realized that, Georgia fans rooting for Bama is actually against their own best interest, because if you win a game and Nick Saban's dynasty is rekindled and all of a sudden they're competing and they win a national championship, that helps them in recruiting, which therefore hurts your school. So ultimately what matters is championships, talent, and money. Those are the three things that I feel like you can evaluate college football conferences on. And, the Big Ten has the most money by a tiny, tiny, tiny margin. If you want to put a slash in there and say attendance, it's sort of split. The SEC and the Big Ten are clearly 1 and 2. But if you start looking at talent, players, and championships, it's just not even there's not a conversation. I don't understand why anyone even tries to have a conversation about it.
It was a foreign concept when I moved to SEC territory. This was before Missouri was in the SEC. They were still in the Big 12. It was a foreign concept moving, and it's like all of these SEC fans, like Vanderbilt fans, rooting for the SEC. And I'm like, maybe I understand that, because that's kind of what you have is to root for the overall conference of how tough it is for your life. We're in this conference. But it was a foreign concept to me that you were rooting for teams in your conference to do well in the postseason. Like that seems like it is so counterintuitive, and it goes against your own self-interest for your particular team. So when Missouri joined the SEC, I'm like, I am not rooting for other SEC teams. I want them all to lose every single game. Yeah. And I don't care if somebody looks at it and goes, well, the SEC isn't that good of a conference anymore. Don't care. Great. If the SEC sucks as a conference, better chance for Missouri to do well. I don't care about what people are thinking about which conference is great. It was such a foreign concept to see that, people rooting for teams that they're going up against and recruiting against as well. Have you found it easier or tougher to handicap bowls in today's game with guys opting out and drafts and so much of the transfer portal and everything going on during bowl prep and everything? Is it tougher or easier to handicap some of these bowl games?
Listen, I'll just put it this way. For fun, like beer money style, gamble on college football every single weekend that there is a real football game. I do not gamble on a single bowl game. So that is, I guess, all you need to know about my level of confidence in what I'm expecting to see in reality TV show exhibition events that are largely driven to fill your Tuesday night when there's nothing else on television. And I say that as an ESPN employee, by the way. It's impossible. We've talked about this with Missouri and Ohio State. How do you know what Ohio State's going to be? The backups are still really talented. But are they motivated? Do they care? Are they, Devin Brown's pretty good, but he's not that good. Like, how good is he? We don't know. Is who all's going to show up? I mean, look at these. It's impossible. I don't know. Like, gambling on the NFL, I feel like is quite stupid. Just because every team is basically even, and literally any outcome can happen in any game. Like, just look at the Jets scores this year. Like, any outcome is possible. And I mean, I don't tell Kansas City fans this. So just like gambling on the NFL always strikes me as incredibly dumb, because college football, at least the outcome is largely predictable. It's more about the matchup and the talent, and how do you feel the gap is going to be, and do you feel comfortable with the gap? And gambling on the NFL seems stupid to me. Gambling on the bowl games seems even dumber to me, because again, you just have no clue. Like, Little Johnny's out last night, and that could change the game. Like, I don't know. Like, I've heard too many stories about coaches and players, and worked with too many coaches and players that will tell you just, oh yeah, we weren't even aware that the game was happening the next day. We were out in Bourbon Street having a good time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just the motivational factors are so impossible to pinpoint. It's just very, very difficult.
Yeah, and I mean, even coaches have said for a while, well, the most important thing is we get these practices for the bowl. Well, I mean, winning is a big deal. And they talk about winning because, well, if your fans are going to travel there, then you might as well win the game. And certainly you want donations and all of that stuff, keep your fans happy. But it's the practices for the bowl eligibility that you get. That's the biggest deal, because then, the guys that are going to be, playing in certain positions next year, then they get an opportunity to practice. You see some guys, go out there and play that might be the next generation, or the guys that are going to take over in the bowl game. That's really the main part is getting some of those practices. And when coaches admit that for a while now, then they're also saying sort of the importance of winning a specific bowl game. And that's where it's like, okay, so you got the new, or not new, but you got the early signing period that wasn't what we had seen in the past. They introduced that a number of years ago. And the transfer portal going on at the same time, like you're recruiting and re-recruiting and trying to find transfers and trying to keep guys from transferring, and you're working out NIL deals and doing all of that. And, oh, by the way, you got a big bowl game coming up. Yeah, so it's the same thing that would go on during the week when you got a big matchup that weekend that you need to go and win the game.
Right.
I bet Eli Drinkwitz probably had his attention and Lance Leipold and Chris Kleiman in 15 different directions, as opposed to when K-State and KU were matching up on the field. I don't think they were doing much recruiting and alumni and meetings and handshaking and doing some of those things. They were getting ready to play their rival.
Yeah, like on Thursday when both teams have a 1:00 appointment for Disney World teacup ride, like normally that's like geometry class and film study. Like instead we're walking around taking photos at, whatever fill in the blank entertainment district is in your area, unless you're in Shreveport, Louisiana, God forsaken. But like Nashville, for example, there's like Battle of the Bands. There's all these things on Broadway. There's a New Year's Eve celebration the next day. Like it's all baked into part of the experience. We're not just, and I actually talked to the director of the bowl this week. I asked him, I said, because the Music City Bowl has got Nashville, I should say, when the new Titan Stadium is built, is going to get a Super Bowl, a Final Four, and a national championship game. And everyone always asks me, like, why is it going to be a national championship game and not a playoff game? Well, it's because if you think about it, the Music City Bowl, which is played on the 30th or the 31st, like almost every single year, there's no way that the coaching staffs or the conferences are going to want all the things that go into the Music City Bowl to be a part of your week of prep for a playoff game. Like there's no way. So what's going to happen is the Music City Bowl will never not be the Music City Bowl. It will always be the Music City Bowl. And sure, it might end up being a New Year's Six at some point and get some rotational. It keeps elevating itself, frankly. But what's going to happen is Nashville as a city is going to host maybe a semifinal or a quarterfinal game, because it's going to be December 14th, and that's not during the week of New Year's Eve and Christmas and all the stuff that goes into distracting a team for preparation, or it's going to be the national championship game, which of course is played 8 to 10 days after New Year's Eve. And so Nashville's going to get probably a national championship game, but it will not be called the Music City Bowl because the Music City Bowl happens during New Year's Eve celebrations and all the week of all the stuff that goes on. And like, there's no chance that coaches are going to want to also do all the stuff that the Music City Bowl corporate partners require of their teams to then also, hey, I got to get ready for Georgia's defense. Like it's never going to happen. So our city will get in, and that applies to every area. Like that applies to everybody. So again, there's a lot of different ways to look at this. I think there is more to, and I'm guilty of this occasionally when I say, look, bowl games don't matter. Well, no, that's not true. There's a lot of little things around the sides and around the edges that really do matter. I think the practices is the number one thing. Coaches will tell you all I care about is the 15 extra practices. I think number two, it's a sellable commodity on the recruiting trail. Like, look, we get postseason trips. Look, we get to go visit here. We get to take mom and dad here. We get a paycheck for that, right? Like, you get a bunch of swag for this. That stuff used to mean a whole lot. It means a little bit less now because players can get paid actual money. So like the PS3 and the sweatshirt and the headphones that like the Fiesta Bowl gave out in 2009 don't matter anymore as much. But more importantly, like here's the new wrinkle is like the redshirt freshman angle, which we've talked about. Like Nico Iamaleava could play for Tennessee and not cost himself a redshirt year because he's already played 4 games because Josh Heupel planned it that way. And now the redshirt rule allows him to play. So there's another benefit to allow you to play young players. But like look at LSU, for example. LSU in Wisconsin, Jaden Daniels, Heisman Trophy winner, not going to play. Okay, that's a bummer if I'm a dad and I'm taking my kids to go watch Jaden Daniels, and you kind of have to assume that we're not going to get to see our superstar player. I would argue that if you have enough money and resources and time to make a large bowl trip, then you probably should have gone to Tiger Stadium at some point this year to watch Jaden Daniels, but that's neither here nor there. But Garrett Nussmeier gets to start the game. And Garrett Nussmeier, who is going to be the starting quarterback for LSU next year, is going to get 15 practices with the ones as the starting quarterback. He is going to practice against a Luke Fickell defense and play against a Luke Fickell defense for the entire game. It is an entire preseason in like a month. for next year's LSU's offense. And I imagine if I'm Brian Kelly, I'm opening up the playbook. I want to see Garrett Nussmeier throw the football as often as possible against Wisconsin's defense, because that is going to help him catapult into the offseason, into spring practice, and into next camp. And so how many young quarterbacks are we going to see that this year, especially with all the transfers that are taking place? Oklahoma is one. Like, if I'm Oklahoma, I am running Jackson Arnold out there all day. I'm telling him to throw the football every play. Just get reps in against the defense. And I think that is ultimately another thing that's happening with the portal and how we can change how we evaluate a bowl game.
And Brian Kelly can use that to catapult himself to Michigan to take over for.
I mean,
Jim Harbaugh.
when Jim Harbaugh is the head coach of the Chargers, I don't know who's he going to be? Vegas, the Bears. He's going to be the head coach somewhere.
You think it's Brian Kelly to Michigan?
Like, I mean, if it's funny, people are like, "Hey, is Jim Harbaugh more likely to leave if he wins the national championship or if he gets beat in the first round by Alabama?" And I'm like, "Yes."
Yes.
I'm like, the answer is yes. Like, I don't, because if he wins it, maybe he's more likely to stay. I don't know, but my thought is that Jim Harbaugh is not long for the college game. So I don't know. I think Brian Kelly. Here's the problem. I think Jim Harbaugh is a slightly better coach than Jim Kelly. A little crazier, but slightly better coach. What did I say?
You said Jim Kelly, but that's okay. I'm good
Jim
with
Kelly?
names. So
Jim Kelly's a great guy. What is he catching strays for in this? So no, Jim Kelly and Brian Harbaugh are both very good coaches. No, I think I think Harbaugh's slightly better, but I think LSU's a way better place to try to win a championship. So I would not. If I'm Brian Kelly, I would never leave that route. LSU is one of the few programs that if you can recruit well enough, you can win a national championship. I mean, look, if Les Miles and Coach O can win national championships there, then there's no reason Brian Kelly can't win a national championship there.
Yeah. Then he's got to figure out what the Uber, what that sounds like is what. You got the LSU down, then you head back to Michigan. He coached at Grand Valley, so, the accents are all over the country. You got to figure some of those things out. I don't know what Uber's accent is, but you can
I think he could do
Michigan.
Family. I think he could do it.
He could figure it out.
UP, for those who don't know.
Yes.
I think Wisconsin and Michigan should play for the UP every year.
Oh, yeah.
There's we have all these trophies in college football, which are great. Some of them are totally made up and weird and stupid and fabricated. Some of them are awesome, but honestly, can you imagine playing for two House of Representative delegates? That sounds wonderful. Like the UP, which is attached to Wisconsin and gorgeous and beautiful in the summertime. The winner of the Wisconsin-Michigan game should get the Upper Peninsula. I agree.
Yeah. There you go. Braden Gull is our guest, Athlon Sports, ESPN Radio. Marvin Harrison is shocking. It looks like he will not be playing on Friday night. There are pictures of him at practice, but just on the sideline, even riding like a stationary bike. He's not going to play. I've wondered this, and not like it would matter for Marvin Harrison Jr., but maybe it wouldn't matter at all because if Marvin Harrison Jr. is opting out, then he's going to the NFL. But would NIL ever be attached to something to where it's like, if you sign this deal, we're going to need you to play in that bowl game? Because if Marvin Harrison did that and it was attached to him playing, what's he going to do? Break the NIL and then go to the NFL and be a top 5 pick? Maybe it might not be worthwhile to other players, but maybe it wouldn't matter for Marvin Harrison. But is that anything down the road?
I like the creativity of the question. I just don't know how you execute. What does the number of games have to do with the contract? Unless, and this is where my cynical capitalistic pig brain goes, which is that generally the ratings for your bowl games are higher, which the only reason, we are all to be blamed for there being, you want to complain about 82 bowl games or 82 bowl slots, complain to yourself. Yeah. Because if we stopped watching them, they wouldn't be on television every single night. And so bowl games tend to do better, especially bowl games like Missouri and Ohio State in a big slot like that, in a big bowl game. It does better than almost every Missouri football game is going to do for most of the year from a rating standpoint. And outside of the Michigan game and maybe the Penn State game, this will probably do much better than the other. So unless you're repping a brand in the game, and that's part of your NIL deal, to increase exposure for your partner and your brand partner, I can't imagine why an extra game would matter. Because again, as long as Marvin Harrison still has an Ohio State emblem attached to him, he can sell anything he wants to at any point. He can go on any social media feed. He can go to any business in town. He can, unless it's like, again, I could even make here's how cynical this really could get. I could make, let's say I'm an apparel company and I really want my sweatshirt on Marvin Harrison Jr. Isn't it better for him to be on the sidelines getting all that camera time?
That's a good point. Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
So then you could make the case for why sitting out is smart. I also, if I'm a brand partner of an athlete and he tells me, look, I'm going to sit out a bowl game, I'm like, I'm glad I'm partnered with someone who's smart.
Make sure you keep that intelligence at the next level working with us. That would be great.
Yes,
Braden Gall,
exactly.
Athlon Sports, ESPN Radio. All right, let's go through these three bowls real quick. KU tonight in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, taking on UNLV, Barry Odom. This is a 13-point spread for KU right now. Do you have any thoughts on the Guaranteed Rate Bowl with the Fighting Lance Leipold's taking on the Fighting Barry Odoms?
No, I mean, Odom, I think just give a lot of credit to UNLV for the way they've played this year and what they accomplished. If this is a real football game, I think that number's about right. 10, 12, 13 points. I think it opened at about 10, right? So it's gone up. So people are all over Kansas. I think UNLV probably plays pretty well in this game just because it's, again, when these kinds of teams, UNLV hasn't ever played in the Mountain West Championship game until this year. This is like the best season in modern UNLV history. So I could see that type of momentum and energy being a motivating factor. I wouldn't bet against Lance Leipold keeping a team motivated, though. Kansas is kind of new territory for Kansas. So almost all of my evaluation of these games, especially at this level, comes from a psychological standpoint, not an X's and O's standpoint. I mean, Kansas is the better football team. They are the more sound team at almost everything that they do. So this is all about this Kansas show up and play its game. And I don't like the phrase like, oh, so-and-so didn't care. That's like shorthand and like hot take sports talk radio for what like really amounts to football's a really hard sport. And if you don't play 100%, you can get beat at any time. And so if Kansas just shows up and does like 88% or like 91% and UNLV's at 99 or 100, that's sometimes that's enough to lose. It's not that you have to like show up and not care, quote unquote. It's that if you show up and just give 10, 12, 15% less focus and energy throughout the course of the week, you can get beat. And that's why it's impossible to project some of these games.
Dave Doran. Yes. Dave Doran, NC State, taking on Chris Kleiman, Kansas State. Doran, local guy that a lot of KU fans wanted to see as the head coach of KU different times throughout his career. But an NC State team that's had a good season and a K-State team that hasn't had a season maybe that they were hoping. This one's Thursday late afternoon, about 4:45 or so. Do you have a feel for this one in motivation aspects?
I mean, look, like again, I think what slight favorite there for Kansas State and North Carolina State, sneaky good season. Quietly went about its business. I mean, I think they have a top 25 offense in the country in terms of yards or defense in the country in terms of yards per play. So much better on defense than people give them credit for. It's just one of those teams that won more games and beat teams it wasn't supposed to for the vast majority of the second half of the season. This is a team that, look, again, Kansas State's better team, more talent, better coaching, but also your quarterback is like in California now. So, like, what do we make of that situation? It's impossible to know. I trust both these guys from a culture standpoint. I really like the rebound year by Dave Doran to get to 9 wins. I think it's a really excellent season for them in terms of expectations. And then sort of, you lose your coordinator, your quarterback doesn't work out, and then it kind of, you make some changes, and by the end of the year, you figure it out. So I'm just really fascinated to sit back and watch it. And again, to go back to the point about how bowl games don't matter, and that phrase, sometimes I overuse it, it doesn't mean that the players don't care. It doesn't mean that the individual athlete doesn't care a whole lot about an outcome or doesn't want to suit up as a fifth-year senior and play his butt off, or that fans shouldn't enjoy the game in the moment for what it is, which they should. You should, if you win the game, you celebrate, you enjoy it. If you lose the game, don't take it too hard because, again, it's just something you should enjoy the moment. It's like a glorified spring game in that sense. But this is a really good – if this was a regular season playoff game, like a round of – I don't know if we're expanding to 24 now, but like if this is a round of 24 playoff game, this is a really, really interesting coaching matchup between the two guys that – Dave Doran's really, really interesting offense, and the defense has been pretty solid this year. I'll take Kansas State, but again, I'm mostly just interested in watching the new quarterback play, and if he's going to start and play the entire game, let's let it rip, man. Don't get him hurt, and let's let it rip, and let's see what the young guy can do.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch, see what Avery Johnson's going to do on Thursday. Missouri and Ohio State. I will tell you that this is as hyped up for a Missouri bowl game as we've seen in a while. I don't know what's going on in Columbus, but Missouri sold out their tickets pretty quickly. A number of people that I know, they're going down there to spend the weekend and heading down to the Cotton Bowl that, haven't heard from people going to bowl games in a while for Mizzou. So this is one that is there's a lot of excitement and anticipation. What do you make of this matchup?
Yeah, and I think this is one of the few where it shouldn't be hard to see where the motivations lie, right? Like you've got one giant big brand that is used to competing for national championships, that is like its starting quarterback is already like playing for an old Big East team, and like all the star power probably going to sit out, but like really, really talented backups and 5 stars getting ready for next year, versus a team that's normally not in this situation but is a pretty good program but has an opportunity to sort of cap off a magical and historic season as one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time in school history. So like you can kind of see the narratives are pretty obvious and pretty clear in this. And that, to me, says Missouri. And I thought the opening line was Missouri is a favorite by a point. I don't know where it's at right now. But the fact that the line opened as Missouri being the favorite, I think, speaks to those two narratives. It doesn't mean Ohio State's not good enough to win. It doesn't mean that Missouri's not good enough to win if Ohio State was at full strength. Like, that's the other thing. Like, it's not a knock on Missouri to say, look, Ohio State may not be as motivated. They thought they were going to get into the playoff like one quarter of football ago, and they didn't get into the playoff, and now they maybe don't care as much because of some of the pieces that are missing. That's not necessarily a knock on Missouri, who, if they lined up, and this is clearly a playoff-type football game in the 12-team era. There's a couple of them this year, and this is one of them. Like if these two teams played in a real game, in a real playoff matchup in the Cotton Bowl, I would absolutely be like, why can't Missouri run the football on Ohio State's defensive front? They were able to find ways to run the football in Georgia and get to the edge. They were pounded the football down Tennessee's throat. They ran the football on Kentucky's defense. They should have beaten LSU. Like, why can't they run the football on Ohio State? So it's not a knock on them to say, look, I think they win. I like Missouri to win. I like them to cap the season, send Cody Schrader off in style. And some of that is because Ohio State's maybe not as focused, but it's not that they don't care, and it's not that Missouri's not good enough, if that makes sense. So I like Missouri, actually, but I think it's more about the culmination of a historic season. And I think all the evidence is pointing to that in the fan base as well. And so I think that's, again, credit to Ohio State if they turn around and win a football game against a very good Missouri team that by all accounts will be full strength and motivated. And if Ohio State does it with a bunch of backups, I think that's a statement more about Ohio State's talent than anything else.
Yep, absolutely. Braden Gall, Athlon Sports, ESPN Radio. Braden, you're the man as always. Appreciate the time, sir. Enjoy the games. We will talk next week, recapping what took place the night before the national semifinals and a little preview of what the national championship game will look like. I appreciate it, brother.
All SEC championship game between Texas and Alabama, so we'll see.
There you go. SEC versus SEC, Alabama and Texas. We'll see if that is the case, not the future Big Ten matchup with Michigan taking on Washington. So, yeah, who knows what could be the matchup. Braden, you're the man. Appreciate it. There's Braden Gall. He is presented by Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance. Whatever you do, if you're a Missourian, they're for you. They are Missouri Farm Bureau Insurance, and they've got you covered. We'll see. I'm looking at the line right now, and actually, we had mentioned it just a little bit earlier that Mizzou now the 1-point dog in this game. Ohio State has now moved back into favorite status. They are a 1-point favorite, and this line has gone all over the place since it opened and since that matchup was first set. From Ohio State to Mizzou being a 2.5-point favorite to now a 1-point dog is Mizzou. But KU favored by 13 and K-State favored by 2. Mizzou now a 1-point underdog. But K-State tonight, or excuse me, KU tonight, 6:30, right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, when the pregame starts for the Jayhawks taking on the Rebs. And it's right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. And then Thursday night, K-State, NC State. Thursday afternoon, I should say. That's a 4:45 start time for that one. And then Missouri and Ohio State Friday, 7 o'clock. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. Goal, who says, run to the bank, KU, K-State, Mizzou, all money line. Run to the bank, bet on it. He's given us locks, and that typically does not happen now. He said he will not bet on bowl games. Yeah, we'll see. KU in action tonight against UNLV. Man, I mean, whether people care about the guaranteed rate bowl or not, or you wanted a better opponent than sort of UNLV, Josh, if we're on the air tomorrow with KU having a 9-win season, I mean, I don't care who it was against. I mean,
it can
year
be
3 for Lance Leipold, 9 wins.
Braden and I talked about this last week too, but you can say that it's a glorified spring game. It's a vibes bowl, if nothing else. Like every one of these local teams has a reason to care about this, and the fans clearly do. I think it's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And K-State on Thursday, we get to see Avery Johnson and what he can do as the man, as the starting quarterback. And then we'll see with Mizzou and Ohio State, and we'll find out what that looks like. But yes, can wash away a little bit of that Chiefs and Raiders vibe from Christmas and get into bowls with the local teams. KU tonight, K-State Thursday, Missouri on Friday. Josh, well done today, man. You really killed it.
Yeah, I'm enjoying those bowls. A little eggnog bowl tonight also. Maybe that'll help me forget the Chiefs.
It won't. Just get you drunk.
Good enough.